Hello and welcome to Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us today as we are beginning our coverage of the Charles Jones shooting trial out of Tampa, Florida. He goes by the performance name of Julio Foolio. And we're going to be, instead of live streaming this trial, it looks like, at least for days 1 and day 2, we're just going to be doing videos and uploading them. So appreciate you guys watching and joining us. And get comfortable and let's get started.
That thing over here, I got a $50 bill, I'm tryna stick in your rear. She like, whoa, it kinda tickles in there. I'm feeling tipsy off a pill, someone get me a beer. A micro, found some dillies upstairs. Then I swallowed all of the bottle, dog, I really don't care. Baby, I'm just tryna get it on air. She wanna give me her love, it's like she isn't aware. I ain't getting married, I barely engage in conversation. She wanna BBL, I ain't paying for that operation. I'm not Aubrey Graham, got no patience for a broad this brain that always harbored hatred for the cops, but I still rock with bacon. What you going through? If you see me with your bitch, tell me what you going through. What you going through? Shawty say she wanna lick, I feel just like fun. What you going through? She a dog, she ain't shit, so that make me dog food. What you going through?
All right, welcome in everybody, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us today as we are beginning our coverage of the Julio Foolio shooting trial. This comes out of Tampa, Florida, and Charles Jones, who goes by the performance name of Julio Foolio, was the victim. He was taken out in Tampa. He was celebrating his birthday. He had just turned 26, and the date of the incident is June 23rd, 2024. The defendants are Davion Murphy. He's 29. We have Rashad Murphy, 32. They are cousins. Then we have Isaiah Chance, he's 23, and Sean Gethright is 20. Now, Alicia Andrews was on trial back in October of 2025. She's 23 years old right now. Her and Isaiah were boyfriend, girlfriend. She got pregnant. We assume that it's from Isaiah, and she gave birth. So let's look at the date of the incident is June 23rd, 2024. The charges are first-degree premeditated, which is capital. So Davion, Rashad, Isaiah, and Sean are all up for the DP. We have count 2, conspiracy to commit first degree. Then we have counts 3 through 5, attempted first degree. So there were other people that were involved in this in the shooting that survived. There were three other people that were in the cars. We have Xavier Edwards. He was the driver of Julio's car. We have Gino Norris. He was in the back seat of Julio's car. And then we have Camilla Bentley. She was driving another car, and she got shot in the arm. So they all survived. Charles Jones, however, did not. So judge is Judge Michelle Cisco. She tried the Alicia Andrews trial. She was actually removed. Alicia's defense filed motions to have her removed from her sentencing, and they succeeded. And a new judge is on, and then the defense filed a motion for a new trial. So that is to be determined in May. So another couple weeks from this trial, the new judge is going to determine that. Then we have the state. We have Michelle Doherty and Anna Ismer. You may recognize them from Sonny Bell's trial, as well as some of the defense. So Nick Sonardi and Scotty Sonardi are they're same last name, but they are not related. They are representing Davion Murphy, and they were also in the Sonny Bell trial. They represented Andrew Thompson, if you guys remember Sonny Bell, also out of Tampa, that we covered. And if you want to go check that out, we have a whole playlist for that. Then you have Davion's cousin, Rashad Murphy, and Daniel Hernandez and Brian Gonzalez. And if you remember them, they were also in the Sonny Bell trial. Daniel Hernandez represented Jalen Bedward, and Brian Gonzalez was Zavante Sampson. So you may recognize some of these people. They're going to be, they may be familiar to you guys. So keep an eye out for that. Then we have Sean Gethright. He is represented by Jason Wise and Jenna Finkelstein. And then we have Isaiah Chance. He's represented by Richard Watts, Christopher Bolt, Ida Namotin, and Thomas Paleo. All right, so let's set the stage. June 23rd of 2024, Jacksonville rapper Charles Jones, going by the performance name of Julio Foolio, was fatally shot in an ambush outside a hotel near the University of South Florida in Tampa while celebrating his 26th birthday. Now, we did a deep dive on KTA and ATK, the two rival rap gangs that are predominantly involved in this. You'll hear 1200 Block, you'll hear 6 Block. If you have any questions, go check out our playlist, and we did a deep dive on the history of those two opposing gangs, I should say, sorry. And then we also did a specific stream just on the history of Charles Jones. So I encourage you to go check those out. And we'll put that in the description. So Tampa police and the FBI allege that the defendants traveled from Jacksonville to Tampa specifically to track and target Jones. Surveillance footage and cell tower data reportedly placed the defendants at multiple locations where Jones was spotted throughout the night, culminating in the shooting at approximately 4:40 a.m. Investigators state that the three shooters opened fire on two vehicles in the hotel parking lot. Jones was struck and he was pronounced passed away at the scene. 3 other individuals, which I described at the beginning, were wounded but survived, and the prosecution contends the attack was part of an ongoing and violent feud between rival Jacksonville gangs. All of the defendants face the DP if found guilty. Now, before we start, we tried to stream this a couple of days ago, and during the state's opening statements, they showed video of the incident, and we were taken down by YouTube. We tried to stream it again, and we were taken down again. So before we even were able to stream the second time. So with that, there will be some gaps in this testimony in the openings. I'll put up graphics. So I apologize for that in advance. If you want to watch the songs in question, I will put those in the description as well. I encourage you to go watch those. If you want to watch the footage of the incident, it's available on any number of other channels. So if you really want to watch that, then go ahead and watch that. We will not be showing that here because we don't want to create any more problems with YouTube, and just want to be transparent with that straight away. So with that, let's get started. All right. All right, so we're going to start with Nick Stenardi was late, as well as Deborah, who they're representing Davion. They were late. They were supposed to be there at 8:30 or before, and they were running late. So I fast forwarded through that, and we're going to get to some motions at first, and then we'll get to state's opening arguments. So let's go ahead and let's get started.
Yes, remember the motions are 5 minutes on this overall.
Yeah, no, I think that's.
All right, you ready to go, Ashley?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Toomey is present now for Mr. Davion Murphy, so let's go ahead and get going. So I did pull the Rashad Murphy's second motion in limine, and specifically what, Mr. Gonzalez, do you think needs clarification?
Judge, if the court has pulled it up, you will see the original relief that was requested.
Right.
And you would note that the data sheet says that the defendant's second motion in limine and Daubert challenge to law enforcement opinion testimony regarding alleged gang war, hearsay-based gang intelligence, and uncharged or unresolved acts of violence is denied in part, granted in part. And
right, so I denied it in part, my notes reflect, I denied it in part as to the 6 prior incidents
Correct.
that the state was intending to get into.
Correct.
And then I reserved, there were remaining videos that I reserved as to. Okay? So
Yes, Judge.
with-
And for the record, those 6 are the murder of Joe Rod Adams, August 24th of 2018, the murder of Adrian Gaynor, February 25th, 2019, the murder of Jaquan Pickens on August 16th, 2023, the attempted murder of Jacoby Beals on August 17th, 2023, the murder of Antonio Tilley on October 6th, 2023, and the attempt on Charles Jones on October 7th of 2023. My concern, Judge, is that if I understand the state correctly, that in addition to those admitted incidents that the court has suggested you will allow testimony about, in the videos that the state is seeking to admit,
And we're talking about in opening. Are they using it in if they're not using it in opening, I don't want to talk about it right now.
Judge, it will depend on whether the state intends on talking about, if the state intends on talking about historical murders in opening.
Yes.
Other than the 6.
No, they said no.
Okay, then we can wait.
Okay, so we'll come back to that one, to clarification
Can
on.
I just clarify, Your Honor? Mr. Gonzalez, do you understand that that Instagram post, Prosper and Junior, are dealing with the murder that occurred in 2014?
I do, but my understanding is the state's already, the court's already ruled it to be admissible over objection.
Okay, so we're done with, at this point, revisiting the ruling on defendant Rashad Murphy's second motion in limine, correct?
Yes, Judge.
Right? Okay. Again, we're just focused on what we need to get through in order for openings to occur. Okay, so then moving on, let's, Rashad Murphy's 7th motion in limine, and my understanding is State's Exhibit 88B, which is, it's an Instagram post, which is attached to defendant Rashad Murphy's motion as Exhibit C. What's your position on that? Are you saying that that's one I've already ruled on, or no?
Judge, I don't have independent recollection of whether the court previously ruled on it.
Okay, let's just discuss it. So, are you going to use any of this in your opening statement? State.
I'm looking now, Your Honor. Mr. Gonzalez's exhibit numbers are different than what the state has on our exhibit
Okay.
list, so I just need to confirm.
That's fine. So for the record, according to the motion at paragraph 21, the exhibit includes a third-party Instagram post dated January 6, 2024, depicting Charles Jones, a June 14, 2024 transmission of that post as an attachment from a user identified as IAYE21 to an account labeled Ghost187.
Judge, I don't think they intend on using that. I think that that's been established.
Nothing in paragraph 21 is relevant for opening.
Okay, so 21 we can hold off on because they're not using it in opening, okay? Which then takes us to, my understanding, State's Exhibit 88C, starting at paragraph 25 of your motion, Mr. Gonzalez, which is attached as Exhibit D to your motion. That would be the 14 images from the Instagram account Ghost187, and State, are there at least some of those images you're going to use in your opening?
Only the one that was previously indicated, but
Which
there
is
was,
what?
Prosper.
Mine are not numbered.
Okay.
The Prosper and Junior G-Day
187 days.
Okay, and for the record, why is that relevant?
Your Honor, this was the image that was previously ruled on. The defense had filed a motion to exclude it. The state had argued that it was used to establish both knowledge and motive. In this case, the court ruled that this would come in. It was a part of the very large motion to limine filed by defense citing specific exhibits, and there is an order, I believe, that articulates the court's response as to that motion already in the file.
Okay.
Judge, again, I would know my objection for the record.
Okay, same ruling from the court. So is that it as far as Mr. Gonzalez, your client, and any motions in limine that need to be heard before opening?
I believe that
Okay.
that would cover it. Let me just run one.
You look while I talk to Mr. Wise about
Yes,
Mr.
Judge.
Gathrights motion. Okay, state the 2 rifles that were found at Mr. Gathrights' residence as a result of the search warrant, you're intending to show a photo of those, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. I believe Mr. Harmon is going to argue this portion if the court needs additional
Okay,
argument.
what's it relevant to? Mr. Harmon?
So we're talking about the 2 rifles that were found in Mr. Gathrights' house, is that correct?
Well, this is in the motion in limine, number 4, in paragraph 14. During the execution of a search warrant at Mr. Gathrights' home, law enforcement seized, among other items, 2 rifles.
Yes.
One was a 223-5.56 caliber, and the other was a 300 blackout caliber. Is that what we're talking about, Mr. Wise?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so state.
Your Honor, the rifle was a 5.56 caliber. The other one was a 300 AAC blackout caliber rifle. The blackout rifle was located with a brass catcher attached to it. We know brass catchers were utilized on both of the high-powered rifles in the video that were clearly utilized in this attack. There were no rifle shell casings found, even though there were numerous rounds fired by both guns. The blackout has a binary trigger, which is consistent with the cyclical rate of the firing by who we believe to be Davion Murphy, the backup shooter behind by the Bronco and the Mercedes SUV, and who can be seen in the Tesla video shooting at the Charger as it flees northbound on the west side of the hotel. The other rifle does not have a brass catcher, but there is a detached brass catcher in the scene. Detached brass catcher right next to it in the safe that contains within it 2 9mm shell casings that are identified to the 9mm shell casings from the scene. They were fired from the same 9mm Glock that was utilized to shoot Mr. Jones. The fact that all of those firearms are located together in the same safe is relevant in and of itself. The 5.56 rifle was not excluded and it was not included, but several projectiles that were submitted to the FDLE initially by law enforcement were consistent with being fired as far as class characteristics, meaning same caliber, same rifling twist, same number of rifling lands and grooves, same diameter of the lands and grooves. They could certainly have been utilized in this incident. So there's nothing to exclude it as being a potential weapon that could have been utilized. The 300 blackout is not excluded because the rounds that were submitted were either 22 caliber class in the initial submission, which would be 5.56 or 223 Remington, both of which can be fired in that 5.56 rifle, the other rifle. And then we submitted additional projectiles recently that came back as 38 caliber class projectiles, which include 9mm. And we believe, and it'd be the state's theory, that all of those projectiles were fired or are consistent with being fired by the Glock handgun. In fact, the rifling in them, polygonal rifling, which is railed, is consistent with Generation 5 Glocks. Amara Drew would testify to. So the simple fact that these projectiles that were submitted out of many and numerous other projectiles that were not, and they were not the same caliber class as the 300 blackout, does not exclude that blackout rifle in relevance. The blackout rifle, again, has an attached box brass catcher, and it's laying next to a detached brass catcher that has shell casings that are matched to the scene. So the state's argument is that they are all relevant to the case.
Mr. Wise, where are they not relevant?
Your Honor, because neither one of the rifles are matched to anything at the scene. I certainly recognize brass catchers prevent casings from being ejected, but they don't prevent projectiles from being ejected, obviously. Many projectiles are found and compared. There are no 300 caliber class projectiles at all. None of the projectiles or jackets are matched to the 300 blackout. Now, with respect to the 5.56, in the Andrews trial, I recognize the examiner testified she couldn't eliminate or exclude that one as having fired some of the projectiles. But there was a new report that was given to us recently from the same examiner. I have not talked to the state about redeposing her yet. We just got this, shortly before the trial started. By my interpretation of this report, it certainly appears she has now examined again the same projectiles she talked about in Andrews and has eliminated them from the 5.56. Because when I cross-reference these exhibit numbers...
Mr. Harmon's shaking his head no, that's not what it means.
And that's why we may end up needing a deposition. But this certainly appears to me that she has now eliminated them, and they're the same
Okay.
fragments.
So
If I can clarify that,
Yeah,
counsel?
please do.
So there are multiple FDLE numbers. Under each of those FDLE numbers, there are item numbers. Some of the item numbers in numbering, they are the same, but they're under different FDLE case numbers, so they are different submissions. The projectiles we submitted were in addition to what was submitted back in 2024. They're completely different.
Okay.
They're not the same.
So it sounds like, since we don't have court Friday, it sounds like you guys need to figure out maybe a way to get this FDLE analyst, redepose her, get her on Zoom, whatever it may be, and make sure everyone's on the same page regarding this new report and what the new report actually signifies.
I agree completely, Your Honor. And even taking the new report out of it, no projectiles have been matched to the 223 at all. It doesn't have a brass catcher. There are some differences when you compare it to what you see on the video. So there's not going to be any evidence that was used, either one of those were used in the shooting. And I believe they're both red herrings. They're going to obviously, not be looked at positively by the jury. It's going to be 404 evidence. Right?
So at this point, based upon what I know, I view this more as a weight versus admissibility type conversation for the jury. So I'm going to overrule the objection as far as the state being able to show the photo during opening. Obviously, before the FDLE firearms expert testifies, once you guys talk to her, and if there are in fact issues that need to be ironed out, we can revisit this. But for our purposes today, as far as moving forward with opening, the state can use the photos. Okay, do we have all our jurors here?
Well, and then, Your Honor, we do have the other part of my motion that I think may come up.
And
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and Your Honor, that is in regards to some videos that were found off the iCloud.
Which motion in limine is it contained? Is it number 5?
I believe that's 5, yes.
Okay.
So, obviously, we heard a lot in the motion in limine or the motion hearings about the iCloud dump. Apparently, shortly before trial, I think last week, the state found in some buried file within there something that was, I guess, deleted on multiple levels, as I understand it. And there are some videos taken from the phone.
What specifically, what video are they going to be using in their opening that you're objecting
only
to?
one photograph, Your Honor, 94D4.
Which is what?
A photograph of a Don Julio bottle.
Okay, what's your objection to that?
Your Honor, it's irrelevant. This happens after the shooting would have taken place. The next night, Mr. Gathright is in Orlando at a club celebrating his sister's birthday. We don't know that there's no, it's not like the text message that you'd excluded where it's reference to my thirst being quenched. This is just a random picture of a Don Julio bottle. We don't know the context. They're in a nightclub. There's plenty of liquor bottles.
What's the
It's
relevance?
this photo and others that are not in opening, Your Honor. There are 3 videos, which are 3 to 10 seconds each, also within the same time frame, of just the defendant recording Don Julio bottles. Throughout the course of this, at least, case, Don Julio bottles have been argued as relevant by the state and are relevant. And there is metadata attached to the photo, so I understand the argument in the motion is that we don't know when it is or where it's from. It is deleted from the defendant's device, but it had already been uploaded to the cloud. So the metadata from it puts it on the same day of the homicide and into the early hours of the next morning. And all that's recorded are photos of the defendant celebrating and videos of Don Julio bottles. So that doesn't change the state's position at all as to its relevance. And I just wanted to assure the court that I've attached the metadata from them with the timestamps, and some of them include the deleted timestamp.
Okay, what's your response?
And Your Honor, as far as the date, I anticipated the state, I think this, in candid, being candid, does fall within the range that's permitted. I just brought that up because this was
Well, they're saying they have a good faith basis that they can show it was the night
I think they do. I think
Okay.
they do. But I brought that up in the motion,
Okay.
to present.
So I'm going to
that issue.
overrule the
But-
objection as to an opening using just the photograph of the Don Julio.
Well, and Your Honor, my other response to that is Mr. Gathright is celebrating his sister's birthday in the nightclub. So I
It
think
sounds like
there's-
the argument you're going to make in front of the jury.
It's-
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have all our jurors here. Are we ready to go?
Judge, we have one audiovisual thing Ms. Vaughn is assisting me with. Because of the position of this podium, it cannot be moved.
Okay.
So we're trying to connect my computer so I can run it closer to the jury. Judge, also, may I run to the restroom real quick?
Yeah, so this is a 5-minute warning. If anyone needs to use the restroom, please do so now. That includes the defendants. And let the jury know that we're about ready to get going, okay? So if they need to use the restroom, do it now.
Is that a request for next Friday off?
Okay, we'll talk about that. Next Friday they went off?
She asked for, she thought she was going to try.
That just changed the look.
All right, and I'm going to fast forward through this part. Don't think anything happens. Okay. So there will be points in the proceedings where I'll be
Viewing very shortly the state's video presentation or PowerPoint presentation. It appears that they are going to actually play at least a couple of the videos visually and audibly, which
Videos of what?
with the lyrics on them.
Drill rap videos.
Drill rap videos, I'm sorry.
Okay, whose drill rap videos?
One will be from the victim. There will be the one from Young and Ace, Kenyatta Bullard, Who I Smoke. And then there will be the one from Kenyatta Bullard, Young and Ace, Game Over. And also another one by Spenavins and Wapa with the Choppa, Foolio Dead. My
Okay.
understanding, these have all been deemed admissible.
Did you all utilize them in the Andrews trial?
Yes. Yeah. All of them.
Here is my concern, Judge, as it relates to the court's rulings. When we talk about the 6 admitted incidents,
Right.
okay, in the state's opening and through their PowerPoint, those lyrics are going to tell the jury, they're going to name a number of different individuals that have been killed in what the state would allege is historical gang murders or warfare. If I understand the court's ruling correctly, the court has suggested or has stated that the state cannot enter evidence as it relates to other historical murders and shootings and those victims and testimony as to those incidents that fall outside of the 6 historical incidents that the court has admitted. And that is my concern as it relates to motion in limine number 2 and what the jury may hear in opening statement as it relates to other murders, other individuals that are murdered, what their names are. And what's going to transpire, my position is that when gang detectives ultimately testify, they're going to discuss and they're going to talk about all of those other murders.
Okay, so
and
here's
those
the thing. When it comes to what's discussed in these videos, it's obviously they're not being admitted to prove the truth of the matter asserted. And without some context, honestly, unless you are intimately familiar with what's going on between these gangs in Jacksonville, no one's going to understand what it even really means, okay? The only way then it gets any kind of meaning is through the gang experts. And the gang experts are going to be limited as far as talking about previous events to the 6 prior incidents that I've already ruled upon. So what can't happen and what's not going to happen, I doubt the state would try to do so, the gang experts can't then extrapolate from these videos and say, okay, by the way, now let's talk about, items or incidents 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right?
So-and-so on such and such a date, and they
no.
Okay, well, certainly, I would agree with the court to the extent that what the jury may surmise in listening to this 3-minute video and the names that appear in it is a far cry from eliciting testimony outside of those 6 incidents that the court has admitted when the trial begins.
Right.
that there's a point of clarification, because that argument by Mr. Gonzalez excludes what the court just indicated. If the gang detectives are describing what is meant by the deaths that are described by those detectives, they will say, that is a member of ATK, he was killed. So that's what Mr. Gonzalez just indicated he did not expect to hear, but in the court's ruling in Alicia Andrews, which was if it's necessary to describe what we're viewing or to understand the evidence, then it's pertinent. In this case, those 6 incidents of criminal gang history are being provided with evidence from witnesses who were present at those incidents in a very limited manner to establish that they occurred and motive for this homicide.
Yeah, I feel like we're talking about the same thing.
Mr. Gonzalez does not believe, for example, that we would be able to elicit testimony that Prosper and Junior were killed in 2014, and that Prosper, a tattoo on one of the defendant's bodies, would mean that that is a victim to gun violence from the Jacksonville gang war. He says anything outside of those 6 incidents, which Prosper and Junior are not included in that 6 incidents, would be inadmissible, but that's not accurate.
So for the purposes of right now, as far as the opening goes, I'm going to overly objection to the video clips. If we need to get deeper into this when it's time for the gang expert to testify, then we can. So,
Yes, Judge.
Okay? Okay, are we ready to go?
Your Honor, the state would invoke the rule of sequestration.
Okay, the rule of sequestration has been invoked. That means if there are any witnesses in the courtroom, you are to remain outside of the courtroom, and you're not to discuss your testimony, what you will testify to, or what you have testified to with any other witness until the trial is concluded.
Your Honor, there is a listed penalty phase witness sitting in the front row to your right. I'd ask that she be excluded.
Your Honor, I would ask if penalty phase witnesses could remain for phase 1. We do have a penalty phase witness here.
For the record, who is the penalty phase witness that's present?
Avaya Gathright.
And is that a family member?
Yes, his sister.
Okay,
His mother, well, in light of what the court's ruling is going to be on our motion of limine, we may be asking to call one of our penalty phase witnesses in phase 1, but that's not someone who's here. His mother...
Okay, but let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about, let's stay focused on what's before us. So Mr. Gathwright's sister is present in the courtroom.
Sister's present. I'm willing to bet his mother is watching right now.
That's
live TV as well.
Well, you need, if she's going to get called during guilt phase, she needs to not be watching, and so you need to tell her that. Because otherwise, she's going to be subject to being cross-examined about it at a minimum.
Right.
Okay, so State, do you object to the Mr. Gathwright's sister sitting in for the trial?
We do, Your Honor, and we would ask again, Your Honor, reminding Your Honor, I'm sure you were very well aware that during the Andrews trial, specifically, that Mr. Gathwright's mother watched portions of the trial, may have discussed her testimony or the testimony of other witnesses before she testified. So in our invocation of the rule of sequestration, we would also ask that the court direct all witnesses to not watch any of the proceedings or talk to anyone about what they may have seen. Because a layperson may not understand the scope of the rule. So.
Yes, so I do want to reiterate, please let if you're going to call any family member or friend as a witness in this case, they cannot watch any portion of this trial.
And Ms. Boland is telling Ms. Lyle that now.
Okay.
But with respect to, well, that applies to penalty phase. Penalty phase.
Listen, at this point, the rule of sequestration means the rule of sequestration. Now, if you've got case law that says otherwise, I'm happy to consider it. But at this point, the state's invoked the rule of sequestration. So any and all witnesses are not allowed to remain in the courtroom, and they cannot discuss, watch any part of this trial.
Understood.
Okay? So, ma'am, you're going to, Ms. Gathright, you're going to need to step out of the courtroom. Okay, are we otherwise ready to go?
Judge, we just need to check audio level real quick on the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Judge, if I may, I have on behalf of Davion Murphy, Brock Adams is listed as a penalty phase witness, but he's sorry to authenticate some screenshots and text messages.
Is he a witness?
He's a witness.
He's got to go?
He's also my investigator as well.
Oh, well, what's your position on that?
He's being used to authenticate something, counsel?
Yes.
What is he? I can't remember. I know you told me.
Some screenshots.
I have no objection.
Okay. Okay, are we ready to go?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, let's bring in our jury.
Yes, Judge. Just off to the side.
Wherever you want it. Where do you want it?
All right, well, while the jury comes in, we can quickly go over, interesting, the rule of sequestration. So Sean's mom testified in the Alicia Andrews trial, and apparently she talked to some other witnesses during that trial before she testified. So they asked her to leave, they asked her to step out. And then Davion has a witness who's also a private investigator, but I believe he could stay. Now, that's not Florida PI Sam. So we also heard that there's going to be 4 songs, Who I Smoke, Game Over, Foolio Dead, and When I See You. So we're going to hear those songs. I'm going to fast forward so we won't hear them, but we'll put those in the description so you can check those out. So I will not play those for you here. But I do encourage you to go watch those on your own. Okay, let's get back into court.
Okay, we are ready to proceed. Before we get going, though, I just am going to ask again, I'm going to ask this every morning. Did anybody watch, read, or listen to any news accounts or social media posts about this case, or do any independent research about this case, or speak with anyone about this case? All right, okay. I don't see any hands, so. All right, I have the initial set of preliminary instructions to read to you all, and they are as follows. Members of the jury, you have been selected and sworn as the jury to try the case of the state of Florida versus Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davion Murphy. This is a criminal case. Defendant Isaiah Chance is charged with 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree premeditated murder. Defendant Sean Gathright is charged with 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder, 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree premeditated murder, 3 counts of attempted first-degree premeditated murder, and 1 count of tampering with evidence. Defendant Rashad Murphy is charged with 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder, 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree premeditated murder, and 3 counts of attempted first-degree premeditated murder. Defendant Davion Murphy is charged with 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder, 1 count of conspiracy to commit premeditated murder, and 3 counts of attempted first-degree premeditated murder. The definition of these crimes will be explained to you later. You must decide this case based on the evidence presented and the law that I give you. Evidence consists of the sworn testimony of witnesses, exhibits admitted into evidence, and anything else that I tell you to consider as evidence. The state's charging document, which is called an indictment, is not evidence and is not to be considered by you as any proof of guilt. It is my responsibility to explain the law to you. It is your solemn responsibility to determine if the state proved its accusations beyond a reasonable doubt against the defendants in accordance with the law that I provide to you. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the court are well defined, and they do not overlap. This is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it will be helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted. At the beginning of the trial, the attorneys will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. The opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the trial. What the lawyers say, however, is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. Following the opening statements, witnesses will be called to testify under oath. They will be examined and cross-examined by the attorneys. Documents and other exhibits may also be introduced as evidence. After the evidence has been presented, the attorneys will have the opportunity to make their closing arguments. Following the closing arguments by the attorneys, the court will instruct you on the law applicable to the case. Following the closing arguments of the attorneys, I will conclude with the final instructions. After the final instructions are given, you will retire to consider your verdict. You should not form any definite or fixed opinion on the merits of the case until you have heard all of the evidence, the argument of the lawyers, and the instructions on the law that I give you. Until that time, you should not discuss the case among yourselves. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or lack of evidence and the law. Jurors must decide the case without distraction and only on the evidence presented in the courtroom. Jurors must not conduct any investigation on their own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places involved in this case. You may not visit places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at maps or pictures to see any place discussed during the trial. If you investigate, research, or make inquiries on your own, I have no way to make sure that the information you obtain is proper for the case. The parties likewise have no opportunity to dispute or challenge the accuracy of what you find. This is contrary to our judicial system, which assures every party the right to ask questions about and challenge the evidence being considered against it, and to present argument with respect to that evidence. Any independent investigation by a juror unfairly and improperly prevents the parties from having that opportunity that our judicial system promises. You are also not permitted to communicate about the case with anyone, including your spouse, family members, friends, neighbors, and even your fellow jurors. No communication includes no in-person, telephonic, or electronic communication, such as emailing, text messaging, posting information on social media or a website, or any other form of communication. During the trial, the court may take recesses, and you will be permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. It is important to remember that the prohibition on communicating about this case applies during these recesses, whether you are in the courthouse or elsewhere. If at any time you find yourself in a situation where others are discussing the case in your presence, leave that situation at once and immediately report the matter to the bailiffs who will advise me. All cell phones, computers, tablets, or other types of electronic devices must be turned off while you are in the courtroom. Turned off means that the phone or other electronic device is actually off and not in a silent or vibrating mode. You may use these devices during recesses, but even then, you may not use your cell phone or electronic device to find out any information about the case or communicate with anyone about the case or the people involved in the case. Do not take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of the proceedings or of your fellow jurors. After each recess, please double check to make sure your cell phone or electronic device is turned off. At the end of the case, while you are deliberating, you must not communicate with anyone outside of the jury room. You cannot have in the jury room any cell phones, computers, or other electronic devices. If someone needs to contact you in an emergency, the court can receive messages and deliver them to you without delay. A contact phone number will be provided to you. Any juror who violates these restrictions jeopardizes the fairness of these proceedings, and a mistrial could result that would require the entire trial process to start over. A mistrial is a tremendous expense and inconvenience to the parties, the court, and the taxpayers. If you violate these rules, you may be held in contempt of court and face sanctions, such as serving time in jail, paying a fine, or both. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt. And the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure, and it is their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had the witness been permitted to answer. During the trial, it may be necessary to confer with the attorneys out of your hearing to discuss matters that require consideration by me alone. It is impossible to predict when such a conference may be required or how long it will last. When such conferences occur, they will be conducted so as to consume as little of your time as is necessary for a fair and orderly trial of the case. All right, finally, if you would like to take notes during the trial, you may do so. On the other hand, of course, you are not required to take notes if you do not want to. That will be left up to each of you individually. You have been provided with a notepad and a pen for use if you wish to take notes. Any notes that you take will be for your personal use. However, you should not take those notes with you from the courtroom. During recesses, the bailiff will take possession of your notes and will return them to you when we reconvene. After you have completed your deliberations, the bailiffs will destroy your notes. No one, including myself, will ever read your notes. If you take notes, do not get so involved in note-taking that you become distracted from the proceedings. Your notes should be used only as aids to your memory. Whether or not you take notes, you should rely on your memory of the evidence, and you should not be unduly influenced by the notes of other jurors. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than each juror's memory of the evidence. Okay, very good. State, are you ready to proceed?
Your Honor, can we confirm all monitors are on that the jurors have?
Are your monitors all on? Okay, very good.
Wait a minute, Your Honor, we have a question.
I run my phone.
You're fine. You can have your phone. It just has to be turned off.
I just turned it off. If
Okay.
you want to take it back,
Sure.
It's great by me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, state you're ready to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
And defense, ready to proceed. Okay, very good. You may proceed with your opening statement.
Okay, please, court, counsels. It was his birthday. He was here in Tampa for his birthday, celebrating his birthday, celebrating with friends, well-wishers. He had traveled here to this city, to Tampa, to celebrate. And what could not have been in his mind in those early morning hours while he was out celebrating his birthday was that he was being watched. He was being followed. He was being stalked. Stalked by a group of conspirators. He could not have known that he was living the last moments of his 26 years, just barely 26 years, breathing the last breaths of his 26 years of life. These conspirators had planned and were now executing a very premeditated plot that had been hatched days, weeks before this day. A plot hatched between them with every one of their collective evil intentions directed into one purpose, directed into one common goal: the premeditated murder of Charles Jones. This group's collective hatred and animosity drove this conspiracy, a conspiracy amongst all of them, an evil, the evidence will show, and wicked conspiracy. And now, all of their planning, all of their advanced coordination would come to fruition. Charles Jones would only see his killers briefly, maybe for seconds, or maybe even a split second, the evidence will show, as they rapidly closed in on him, dressed from head to toe in all black, like ninjas, the evidence will show, coming out of the dark, wearing disguises that they had brought with them, disguises to hide their identities. from the ever-present and ubiquitous cameras that permeate our communities. And sitting in the front seat of his Dodge Charger, their plan came perfectly together. He was now the perfect target. Caught completely and entirely off guard as these gunmen appeared seemingly out of nowhere. An ambush that these 4 defendants that sit before you in this courtroom had organized carefully and intended, now being orchestrated perfectly and with precision that permeated their planning and their attention to detail. Unable to run, unable to dive, basically caged in the front seat of that Dodge Charger, Charles Jones was a sitting duck. The evidence will show these conspirators didn't hesitate, not for one moment and not for 1 second. With coordinated precision, they ran to their respective firing positions and then unleashed a hellish onslaught, affecting a precisely coordinated violence of action, sending a barrage, a wall of hot lead, crashing into the only barriers between them and Charles Jones, the only barriers that separated his life from his death. And those barriers were absolutely no match. No match for the high-powered 5.56 NATO and 300 blackout high-powered rifle rounds, each of which was traveling at thousands of feet per second, each round carrying with it over 1,200 foot-pounds of lethal energy directed specifically at Charles Jones. A Glock 9mm handgun was being utilized by one of these conspirators, but not the way that it was designed. Not as a semi-automatic handgun, where you get a single bullet with a single trigger pull. No, this Glock had been converted into a fully automatic hand cannon, and now it was running wide open, fully automatic, depositing over 30 rounds out of its extended magazine into the hood and into the windshield of that Dodge Charger. All of this gunfire filling the early morning darkness with booming concussions and flaming, explosive muzzle flashes. And as these high-pressured, high-powered rounds filled the atmosphere around the front of that Dodge Charger, Charles Jones sat there, unable to move or do anything fast enough to evade them. Charles Jones, a name and an indictment, and now you see him. It'll be clear to all of you in the state's evidence that this conspiracy hatched not minutes, not hours, but days and weeks before this date, before this murder. A conspiracy formulated in the hearts and minds of these 4 defendants with one common agreed upon goal: death, murder. and violence. A conspiracy that began days before, hundreds of miles away from Tampa. A conspiracy that would span through several days, over 500 miles of travel. A conspiracy that involved reservations being made, disguises selected, gear being obtained, weapons being selected, manipulated, loaded, and made ready. Transportation was obtained, vehicles with specific purposes, and a plot that required advanced planning and logistics to include housing, communications, and transport would materialize and become reality, a criminal, murderous operation. These conspirators traveling from the northeast corner of this state all the way here to Tampa, following their target, conspiring to murder Charles Jones, the evidence will show, not in his hometown, but here in Tampa, where his guard would be down while he was celebrating his birthday. You will see in this evidence the clock-like precision of these conspirators as they work together as a team. The conspirators. Isaiah Chance, also known as Gutta Zay, Gutta Man, Gutta, and Mr. Rich Off War. Sean Gathright, Davion Murphy, and Rashad Murphy, also known as Ghost or Ghost 187. There was a fifth participant that night, Alicia Andrews, who was Mr. Chance's, defendant Isaiah Chance's girlfriend, and who, along with Isaiah Chance, would provide the essential surveillance for this conspiracy. To understand the wicked purpose that drove and motivated this shared desire to end Charles Jones' life, we need to look back in time in the city of Jacksonville to the lives and associations of Mr. Jones and all of these defendants. We'll go back in years, and I'm going to walk you through a gang war that has been occurring in the city of Jacksonville, and that in this case traveled here and spilled into our streets here in Tampa. Gerard Adams, also known as Spaz, was part of a gang called 1200. He was murdered in August of 2018. Mr. Adams, as I said, was part of a gang, 1200. 1200 is affiliated with another gang, ATK. Those two gangs are affiliated. Adrian Bibby Gaynor was associated to another gang, 6 Block, which was an opposing gang. In this case, in the evidence, you may hear the term ops or opposition or dead ops, meaning opposing gangs, the opposition. ATK and 1200 were and are the opposition to 6 Block. 6 Block also has a subset or a sub-gang, bully gang, which is confederated with 6 Block. Jaquan Pickens, also known as Jake Jit, was murdered in August of 23. August 16th of 23. The next day, August 17th of 23, Jacoby Lowell Colby Beals a 1,200 gang member shot multiple times, he would survive. And you can see in this, and you will see in the state's evidence, a back and forth between these gangs that oppose each other. In October of 23, October 6th, specifically of 23, around 11:45, Antonio Tilley, who was an ATA, or was an ATA gang member, was shot to death while he was in an Uber. Just over 6 hours after the murder of Antonio Tilley, on October 7th, attackers with high-powered rifles would shoot up that same Dodge Charger being driven by our murder victim, Charles Jones. This was 9 months before the murder of Charles Jones. He had left his house at about 6 in the morning and was driving down the street, coming to a stop sign, when attackers with high-powered rifles opened up on his Dodge Charger. He would escape that morning with his life. He would drive to a local hospital and be treated for a gunshot wound to his lower leg. Drill rap. We talked about rap music yesterday with several folks in the jury pool. Drill rap is a different type of rap. It is a specific type of rap that these groups that I've already talked to you about, 6 Block and Bully Gang, and then on the other side, 1200 ATK, engaged in. Songs that were produced and songs that were distributed on social media platforms like YouTube and Spotify. Rap music where the opposing gangs' casualties, people in those gangs that had been murdered, would be demeaned, mentioned, ridiculed, made fun of, to elevate the gang making the video, to elevate their status. They would demean not just the other gang, but what is more incendiary, they would speak specifically to members of the opposing gang who had been murdered in sarcastic lyrics, traveling in some instances to gravesides, whether it was the graveside of that person who was actually killed or some other graveside that would stand in. In addition to the drill rap, they would post photos on social media making fun of the opposing gang's casualties. I'm going to walk you through a couple of videos that you will see in the state's evidence. This video is a combination 1200 ATK video. The major performer is an individual named Kenyatta Bullard, also known as Youngin Ace or Ace. Spinabins is one of the performers who is a well-known drill rap gang member in Jacksonville, and Wappa with the Choppa is another. You can see in this photograph in the background, Youngin Ace in the yellow. Kenyatta Bullard, aka Youngin Ace. And you can see his ATK chain around his neck. In this video, you will see these performers at times during the video pointing up in the air, and you will see the names of people appearing on the screen. Those are casualties from 6 Block. Those are people who were murdered on the opposite side. And you will hear them talking about them in this drill rap. So we see here the title to the drill rap song, Spinabins, Wappa with the Choppa, Youngin Ace, and Fast Money Goon are all participants in this video. And this is them pointing, Tiki being an opposing gang member who was murdered.
All right, and here's where we are going to fast forward through. I am going to pull up those moments. I'll just show a few clips here and there. When they get to when they get to the moment of Bibby, Tiki, and Lil Nine. So they're showing the video and they're showing the lyrics. And again, sorry, there's Bibby. There's Tiki. There's Lil Nine. So they're showing the lyrics along with the video. And again, I apologize that we have to censor this, but that's where we are right now. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward it so we can get back to trial. And we'll put this link in the description.
So you heard the name Bibby, Adrian Gaynor, one of the people that we discussed earlier in the gang war. That was just one of several that they were pointing out. Who I smoke, meaning who is killed or shot. So we saw Spinabins and Wappa with the Choppa. Spinabins Noah Williams came out with this song concerning this murder, this song being released within a couple of days of the murder of Charles Jones. It's called Foolio Dead. Now, that last video, the Who I Smoke video by Young and Ace, these videos are not just put onto YouTube. Young and Ace is a celebrity. He has tens of millions of followers on Spotify and YouTube. These songs attract a lot of attention. This song, as I said, was put out within a day or two of the death of Charles Jones here in Tampa. You're going to see references and hear references in this to not only Charles Jones' name, but to the name Six, Mr. Six, or Six, meaning 6 block.
And this one we're going to fast forward through as well. And again, we'll put the videos in question in our description, and I apologize, but this is where we are right now.
About who they're talking about. You even saw footage from the area where the murder occurred. Foolio dead, for real, his ass a ghost. This is a good example of drill rap.
No, it's on.
This was another song, this one by Young and Ace, the same guy from the Who I Smoke video. This song came out, I think, 4 or 5 days after the murder of Mr. Jones. This is called Game Over.
And we're going to fast forward through this one too. And again, I apologize, you guys, but this is where we are right now.
That is Charles Jones. The Don Julio you keep seeing, the tequila, again, that is a diss against Charles Jones, whose rap name was Julio Foolio. 5 in the morning, you will find in the evidence in this case that this crime occurred around 4:40 a.m. He says 4 in the car, 1 dead, 3 hit. Mr. Jones was murdered and 3 other individuals you will find in the evidence. You heard the attempted murder counts against 3 of these defendants. 3 others were hit with gunfire but survived. As I said, Kenyatta Bullard is a certified celebrity. And you also saw that. That is just a still from that video. And that's talking about both Charles Jones and his gang, 6 Block. Charles Jones, also known as Julio Foolio, also known as Foolio, Mr. 6, or just 6. Like Kenyatta Bullard, the person in the last 2 videos that was the lead rapper, who is the public face of ATK, Mr. Jones, the evidence will show, was the public face of 6 Block. He was the main person in that gang, the main spokesperson, and he was also a celebrity with tens of millions of followers on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. This is a drill rap song that Mr. Jones did a couple of years before his murder. He will talk about several people that are opposing gang casualties. You will see a poster that he is holding and walking around that has 3 photographs on it, 3 young men that were all murdered in a shooting that involved Kenyatta Bullard, Young and Ace, who was the only survivor of that shooting. So a couple of things about that video. He says, "Happy birthday, 23." 23 was one of the young men, that was his street name, that was murdered in that shooting. They had gone out to celebrate his birthday, and you heard him say very sarcastically, "Happy birthday," several times in that video. He also says he fell in love with dead ops. Got dead ops on my mind. Dead opposition. Casualties of the opposite side. He also says something very similar to the video that Kenyatta Bullard, Young and Ace put out after Julio Foolio, Charles Jones murder. In this case, 4 shot, 3 dead. Very similar lyrics. This is a back and forth diss. This is back and forth. And it is this animosity and hatred between these gangs that drove the conspiracy in this case, that caused these 4 defendants to confederate and to conspire, in this case, to engage in this coordinated, planned, murderous attack. Another thing about that last video by Mr. Jones, he talks about on the east side, the west side. These terms, 6 Block and 1200, refer to areas of Jacksonville. This is a territorial gang war. And these gangs are in certain areas and have control over certain areas of Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, you will hear in this evidence, has committed resources to a gang unit. And it's staffed by several gang detectives who get training and education in how to investigate gangs, how to maintain information and intelligence on those gangs. One of the things they do is they monitor that. They monitor their social media. And you will hear testimony from some of these gang detectives in this case. These detectives, each of them specializing in specific gangs to give full commitment by the Sheriff's Office to this gang war and the violence that's occurring in the streets of Jacksonville and Duval County. So Charles Jones belonged to and was affiliated to the wrong group. He was their spokesperson. You will find in the evidence in this case that these defendants, Rashad Murphy, Davion Murphy, are 1,200 gang members. You will also hear that Isaiah Chance is an ATK gang member affiliated closely with 1,200. Now, you're not going to hear evidence that Mr. Gathright is a gang member, and we haven't charged anything in our indictment about that, but you're going to hear he is associating with all of these gang members and was a fully committed participant in this murder. But these gangs, they despise and abhor each other, the evidence will show. So I want to talk to you about the murder itself. So you heard mention in the dead op, or the Foolio dead drill rap video by Spinabins and Wappa with the Choppa, the one that started with the blue screen. What you're looking at on the upper part of that screen, you can see Embassy Suites, USF, you can see the USF Research Park. That's Fowler, and that is the main entrance to the University of South Florida's campus. This is all just to the east of Bruce B. Downs, right? To the lower part, you have an extension of 40th Street, which becomes McKinley. And right there on the corner, you heard them mentioning Holiday Inn, which is running horizontal. Next to it is a vertical building. That is the home to suites. And it is on the very south end, or the bottom of the photograph, on that vertical building. There is a portico there, an entrance to that hotel. That is where the shooting in this case occurs. Now, in this photograph, you can see on the far left, there is a La Quinta Inn. That becomes relevant in the state's case because one of these high-powered rifle rounds went all the way across and went through and into a room, and there was recovered projectiles. This is more of a close-up. Now, on the bottom of the photograph, you can see, to the bottom right, you can see an entrance into the Home to Suites parking lot from McKinley. And you can see right at the bottom of the building a square offset. That is the roof of the portico, the entrance to the hotel. Just a more close-up photograph. So I want to walk through several videos with you that were recovered in the investigation by the Tampa Police Department here in Tampa that show what's occurring. Unfortunately, my laser pointer is not, well, maybe it will. It actually is working a little bit. Okay, usually LED screens will absorb the laser. So you're going to see here, you're going to see the Dodge Charger, Mr. Jones' Dodge Charger pulling into the portico. And you can see up here, that's a few minutes off. It's actually around 4:34, 4:35 a.m. in the morning. It's June 23rd of 2024. But he's pulling into that portico, having just turned off southbound McKinley. You can see here, this is a Hyundai that'll go down, turn around, and come up behind him. That's being driven by Armani, who is his... Armani Turner, excuse me, who is his girlfriend.
But yes?
I can't see the laser.
Yeah.
It doesn't work great on the LED screen.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So.
What you're describing, I can't.
Yeah, I thought that might happen, Your Honor, with the jurors in the back.
That's fine. So just, Mr. Harmer will try to be as descriptive as he can, okay?
Yeah. So if you're looking at the car with the tail lights lit up, that's the Hyundai on the top of the screen. That's outside of the portico. It's going to continue in the direction it's pointing. It'll do a U-turn, a sharp U-turn, and pull in right behind Charles Jones' Dodge Charger. Mr. Jones is in the front passenger seat. The car is being driven by his friend Xavier Edwards. The car that is sitting there already in the portico belongs to an employee. That's unrelated to the case. And this steaming coming off there, that's coming from the building. It has nothing to do with the cars. You're going to see Mr. Jones. He's wearing a red knit cap. He's wearing a white T-shirt. You will see him exit the Charger and walk into the hotel. So what happens is, while they were out that night, he had made a reservation, but because they arrived so late, it was given away. In this video, you'll see him return. In some instances, the video is being accelerated slightly, like right now. There's a car pulling in to the parking lot and going northbound. That becomes very relevant, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. This car, a Nissan Altima, is being driven by two of Mr. Jones' friends. They had gone around to the other side of the hotel and were just coming back. You're going to see an individual named Taifa McCrae and Miss Albritton, who is dressed in a all-pink suit, who are friends of Mr. Jones. They exit and they go into the hotel to use the restroom, and they're actually inside the lobby when the shooting occurs. When Taifa got out of the front seat of the Altima, another young lady, Camilla Bentley, slid in behind him in the front seat. Now you're going to see another car come by. This is a small silver Chevy Cruze. This, you will find in the evidence, is the surveillance tracker vehicle that was utilized by these conspirators, by these defendants, to follow, to track and stalk Mr. Jones and his friends, giving real-time, by communications by phone, real-time location data and information about where he would be. This car passes by, being driven by defendant Isaiah Chance, his girlfriend. You saw her earlier. Miss Andrews is in the front passenger seat. The assault team is already present on the west side of the hotel. That was the car that had pulled in earlier and went northbound and did not pass the portico. This is a mounted camera, by the way, folks, on the hotel that's facing east-southeast. If you look in the upper right part of the screen by the two palm trees, you're going to see, right before the shooting happens, a masked individual's face pop out. The evidence in this case will show that is defendant Rashad Murphy. He is the Glock shooter. This is the beginning of the well, actually it's not. First we're going to see the Chevy Cruze come by. And then the Chevy Cruze will do a three-point turn. You'll see that in other video evidence shortly, and it turns around and goes back out. And now it's exiting. Mr. Chance drives right past the victim and exits the parking lot of the hotel, literally within seconds of the murder occurring and starting. You will see him exiting to the right, going southbound on McKinley. The evidence will show that he goes down, he does a U-turn and comes back north on McKinley, and passes the hotel just before the shooting begins. There's the shooter. Xavier Edwards tries to escape from the shooting. You can see the other two cars, one being driven by Camilla Bentley, who's going forward, the other one being driven by Armani Turner, who's going backwards. In their haste to flee from the shooting, they actually collide with each other, and they both end up going southbound on McKinley, and they go different directions. Now, this is what I was talking about, where by the palm trees you will see a head pop out right before the full appearance of the shooters. That is Rashad Murphy. You will see another shooter run over to that tree just to the center of the video screen, just to the right of that Lexus SUV. The evidence will show in this case that that is Defendant Gathright. On the top of the screen, you see a Mercedes SUV and a yellow car, and you see an individual moving around. The evidence will show that is the defendant, Davion Murphy, who was firing. And you can see in this evidence that Mr. Edwards attempts desperately to flee from these shooters, but what he actually does is he drives directly into a crossfire, a vortex, if you will, of high-powered rifle fire. The car flees down the west side of the hotel, heading north. Now, just around the corner, wrapping around to the west side of the hotel, the attack team parks the car, they get out and move into position coming around to that corner. As they move through there, they pass a Tesla. This is a video from a Tesla. There are multiple screens and videos you will see from this Tesla, which was in Sentry mode, activated and recorded. Officers met with the owner the next morning, who showed them this video on the screen inside of the Tesla, and they were able to collect this video. In this instance, and you can see to the far right, you can see a charging station with cables hanging off of it. You will see in the grass area by the charging station, you will see Davion Murphy running by, holding a rifle, wearing all black with an orange ski mask. And he's heading up to that area by that yellow Bronco and the Mercedes SUV, where he later pops out. Now, in a minute, you're going to see Xavier Edwards accelerating that Dodge Charger around the corner. You'll see its headlights sweep across those, I believe, probably cypress trees right there. There comes the headlights. He is now fleeing up the west-northwest side of the Home to Suites. You're going to see Mr. Murphy, Davion Murphy, unload with that rifle down the west side of that hotel. Mr. Jones' Charger, after being impounded and transported to the Tampa Police Department, impound lot, all of those yellow marks, other than the ones on the hinges, are going to be impacts. So you see Ms. Turner, Mr. Jones' girlfriend in the upper left. She was in the Hyundai. Ms. Randolph, her friend, was in the Hyundai. And Robert Howard, who is a friend of Charles Jones, was in the Hyundai with those women, sitting directly behind the Dodge Charger. You see Tafa McCrae and Aaliyah Albritton, the woman who was in the pink outfit, who were in the Nissan Altima. Xavier Edwards was wounded. He was shot in his right arm. He had a grazing wound to his head, shot in the shoulder. This is him at the hospital being treated. Sustained multiple gunshot wounds. And you can see lacerations from glass or projectiles to his left hand. He is one of the victims of one of the attempted murder counts charged against Davion and Rashad Murphy and against Sean Gathright. Gino Norris. Mr. Norris is a longtime friend of Charles Jones, going back several years into their youth. He was in the back seat of the Charger. He had come with Mr. Edwards, and Mr. Jones had traveled here from Jacksonville to celebrate the birthday. When they arrived here, it was on Friday night, and they stayed at an Airbnb in Pinellas County. The next day, they stayed at an Airbnb in Pasco County in Holiday. And I'm going to show you here shortly where Mr. Jones was posting on his Instagram account that he would be here in Tampa. He actually appeared at a couple of clubs and put up advertisements for those appearances. But he was asking people if they, advertising that he was having a pool party for his birthday party that Saturday of this weekend. That would have been the 22nd of June, 2024, at the Airbnb. And you'll see in the Instagram post, he was advising people that follow him, send me a DM and I'll send you the address. So they actually did, and a lot of people showed up at that Airbnb in Holiday, and eventually, because of the crowds, the owner of the Airbnb shut it down and kicked them all out. And that's why they were trying to find lodging at the Home to Suites later that night after Mr. Jones had made these appearances, which we'll discuss in a minute. But Mr. Norris had traveled here with his friend Charles Jones and with Mr. Edwards. He was in the back seat. Mr. Jones was shot in the right arm. He is also one of the victims of the 3 attempted murder counts against the shooters in this case. Now, when Mr. Edwards and Mr. Gino Norris, when that Charger came to a stop finally, they quickly realized that Charles Jones was gone. He died very fast. They bailed out of the Dodge Charger. They were both shot. Mr. Norris will tell you he had been asleep and had been woke up by the crashing of the Dodge Charger. You will see that as it went up the northwest side of the hotel, there was a curb and a grass area where there's a dumpster. It went right over the curb, right through that grassy area and into a north area where there's another parking lot before it finally stopped, bullet riddled and steaming. Mr. Edwards, Mr. Norris bail out of the car and they run from these shooters because they don't know where they are. They run into a Holiday Inn and they leave a massive blood trail that leads into that Holiday Inn, which police would later follow when they arrive because of the multiple 911 calls being generated from all of the noise of the gunfire. Now, Camilla Bentley, I told you, had slid into the driver's seat. You can see these impacts from gunfire to the rear window of the Altima. That rear window would have been closest to the shooters. Miss Bentley was also wounded. She is our 4th victim. This is her in the hospital being treated for a bullet grazing wound to her right upper arm. Now, going back, I told you I would show you, and you will see in the evidence, Mr. Jones' Instagram account, and you can see the name Julio Foolio. That's his celebrity name, his rap name, and his street name. He is advertising that he is going to be appearing at Teasers. You see that in the middle of the advertisement on Nebraska Avenue, 9700 North Nebraska Avenue. He is going to be appearing on June 22nd. So for his birthday, you can see B-Day in the middle there. He is advertising, and then you also can see Mr. Howard there in the yellow. He was one of the individuals in the Hyundai. He's advertising his whereabouts on June 22nd, where he is going to be. This is another advertisement. D-Day Bash for Julio Foolio teasers, June 22nd, 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. And you can see in the lower left on your screens where he is saying my Airbnb pool party, June 21st, that was the Friday night one, and my official birthday party, June 22nd, club teasers. He gives the club address, so he's giving his location where he's going to be. Now, this is a message sent to a phone that Mr. Murphy, Rashad Murphy, was utilizing. On June 22nd, he receives this confirmation concerning, and I'm going to come back to this later, and I'll let you look at it in a little more detail, but it's concerning the booking of an Airbnb in Tampa on June 22nd. This is being sent in the early morning hours of the 22nd, and the owner is telling him that the HOA requires for security purposes that all guests booking with us provide a valid ID through the Airbnb message portal. Mr. Murphy obliges, and in the phone that he was utilizing, he sends his photograph back to the Airbnb owner. Now, this is a Vivint camera mounted at the residence of Sean Gathright. This is June 22nd, Saturday, in the middle of the day. This is the beginning of that day for these conspirators. You're going to see Mr. Gathright and Mr. Chance loading a Chevy Impala that is being driven by Mr. Gathright, Sean Gathright. It is registered to his mother, but it is the car that he drives and operates. And it is the car that transports the shooters, the assault team of which he is part of in this case. You're going to see them loading it with book bags, but you're also going to see them loading it with rolling duffel bags, long bags that appear to have weight to them. That's Mr. Gathright, Mr. Chance. You will see in the evidence that they are friends. That is the Impala, the black car.
Yeah.
We're talking about how they're going to load the heaviest bags into the trunk first. The BMW on the top part of the screen belongs to Mr. Chance. He would later go and retrieve his girlfriend, Miss Andrews, and bring her back to this residence. And that's in Jacksonville. Now, at some point that afternoon before they leave, Mr. Chance brings his contribution to the assault team. And this is going to be in slow-mo, but you're going to see a Glock handgun with an extended magazine. You see his finger resting down the side of the slide. He tucks the gun into his waistband as he walks back into Mr. Gathlight's residence. Notably, he knows the combination of Mr. Gathlight's residence. And you can see the extended magazine coming out from the bottom of his hand. You can see the trigger guard below his hand and his finger extended down the slide of that pistol. Mr. Chance on the left, Sean Gathright in the middle, and Miss Andrews on the right. They end up leaving that residence, Mr. Gathright driving the black Impala,
They travel from Jacksonville that Saturday afternoon down around near Gainesville, all the way down 75, down to 275, and they come down, and you will see them end up at the Airbnb, which Mr. Rashad Murphy has booked for them, which is sitting literally 1.38 miles from the home to suites, just on the north side of the USF campus, the University of South Florida. Now, you're going to hear about an investigative device called LPRs. You may know what those are. It stands for license plate recognition. It is a system, in this case, Flock, which is a company that produces these systems. They utilize different camera systems that integrate into their network. In this case, the camera system is from the Florida Highway Patrol. Flock is frequently contracts with cities, with law enforcement agencies. Sometimes they'll put up their own network of cameras, which later plays a role in this case. A lot of times they incorporate other cameras. But when a license plate is put into the system, it can pick that license plate up as it is en route traveling. And in this case, investigation revealed Mr. Gathride's Chevy Impala being picked up on this license plate reader on June 22nd, 2024. Here it is at the merger of I-75 and 275 heading southbound. You see the latitude, longitude coordinates on the third row up on the right. You see the area or nearest address is New Tampa. It is a Florida Highway Patrol camera. Now, in the top part, 3 rows down, you see the date and you see a time, 11:39:28 p.m. UTC. That is Coordinated Universal Time, what used to be known as Greenwich Mean Time. It is a standard utilized in aviation, utilized in space travel, but is it a standard that that is utilized a lot of times by cell carriers and call detail records from cell phone companies, and it's utilized in law enforcement frequently, but it is a standard time. Here they have given us the conversion to Eastern Daylight Time, which in June, here in the Eastern Standard Time, we are in Eastern Daylight Time, EDT. And you go 4 hours back to 7:39 p.m. So this is them arriving in Tampa at 7:39 p.m. And again, Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, is like Greenwich Mean Time. It's basically the time zone in England. Two of our other conspirators, Rashad Murphy on your left and his blood cousin, Davion Murphy, on the right. They are also picked up, this time on an open AALPR. License plate recognition report is generated. They are driving in a silver Chevy Cruze that Mr. Murphy would later tell law enforcement he had obtained from his brother's, the mother of his brother's child, his nephew, a woman, and a car outside of these groups of people, one that would not necessarily be recognized by someone, and a car that would later be utilized by Mr. Chance and his girlfriend as a tracker surveillance video that would be following and tracking. The evidence will show Charles Jones and his friends as they celebrated through those early morning hours. So you see on the right-hand side here, this is being picked up June 22nd, and they list this company does, in Eastern Daylight Time, 7:46 p.m. at Bruce B. Downs at Tampa Palms. So they are heading into the New Tampa area, heading down just north of the USF campus. Here we see their routes being covered on the right-hand side. Yes, by that Chevy Cruze, the route that it takes coming and going back. On the left-hand side are areas where it is being picked up on license plate readers. Okay, first one on top, June 21st, is going back to Friday. University Drive, Dolphin Drive is an address or an area of Jacksonville. That's when it's still in Jacksonville. 6:22 in the morning, it's driving. It's on Highway 441 at 18:09 hours. That is 6:09 p.m. It is at 326 on Gainesville Road near Gainesville. At 7:47 on the 22nd, Tampa Palms Boulevard in Bruce B. Downs, BBD. And later in the early morning hours, you can see where it is being picked up on Hillsborough and North 15th. And then on the 23rd at 6 p.m. later in the day, again now going back to Jacksonville northbound. That Hillsborough Avenue and North 15th is an address just south of Teasers. You'll see in the evidence that while surveilling the victim and his entourage of friends, that Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews at times drove away from Teasers and then came back. This is showing you on your left side the Chevy Cruze and the Impala being picked up at the same times, the same locations, by the same license plate readers. So you can see they're highlighted. At 18:09 hours, they are both being picked up at 326 in Gainesville Road. At 1947 and 1945, they are both being picked up at Tampa Palms Boulevard and Bruce B. Downs. At 3:41 hours, Hillsborough Avenue and 15th Street. This is the Impala and the Cruze operating in tandem, traveling in tandem, coming from Jacksonville, and then operating through into the early morning hours of the attack. This is the Airbnb location at Gazebo Pond Lane, where that red marker is, and that's a direct, as a crow would fly, line down to the home to suites, 1.38 miles. You can see the entire University of Florida campus, University of South Florida's campus between Fletcher and Fowler depicted in that. This is the Airbnb on Gazebo Lane. The door on the left. You can see the Ring camera mounted to the side of the door. Now, this is Miss Andrews on the 22nd. She's knocking on the door and she ends up being let in. And you'll hear someone say, "My bad," as she's let in. So there's clearly people inside of the Airbnb. What is significant is on the 22nd, she is the only person who enters through the front door. The rest of the conspirators go this way, down the side of the building, around the back of the building, and they enter through sliding glass doors. They do not allow themselves to be recorded by the camera, by the door, the Ring camera. Miss Andrews is the only one on the 22nd. That changes after the murder. They start getting sloppy, the evidence will show, later the next day on Sunday. And they basically, all of them start showing up on that camera. All of them except for Rashad Murphy, the ghost. He doesn't show up anywhere until later. So they go through, and that's where they enter. Now, at 1:40 a.m., Mr. Jones, his friends are arriving at the Teasers on North Nebraska around 1:55, close to 2. He doesn't get there till about 2:30 in the morning in the Dodge Charger. But at 1:40 a.m., 3 hours before the murder, about an hour before this conspiracy, before these conspirators begin their hunt for the victim at Teasers, Alicia Andrews' phone leaves the Airbnb and goes to a nearby McDonald's at 2205 East Fletcher. That's 22nd Street in Fletcher. There's a McDonald's there. It's a 24-hour McDonald's. On the right-hand side, you see some cell tower mapping. I'll talk to you about that in a few minutes. But her phone is mapped at that location, and you will see the Chevy Cruze come into the parking lot and work itself through the drive-through lanes. The driver of the Chevy Cruze, you will find in the evidence, is Davion Murphy. Miss Andrews is in the front passenger seat. So now you see Davion Murphy. He is smoking a cigar and he's talking to the young lady working in the McDonald's. You can see someone next to him in a car on the right-hand side. The evidence will show that's Miss Andrews, Mr. Chance's girlfriend. But what is significant is they buy a lot of food, a lot more than for two people. Now, going later in the morning, this is video recovered from the Teasers nightclub on Nebraska, where Mr. Jones had advertised he would be appearing. Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews walking in the parking lot. Mr. Chance is wearing a hoodie, and in June of 2024, he is wearing a COVID mask. Miss Andrews is wearing a COVID mask. You see in that video, Mr. Chance has a phone to his head. He is communicating directly with Mr. Gathright by way of that phone. They are using some type of app that is not picked up. They are not text messaging or making phone calls. But that is Alicia Andrews' phone. So her phone becomes relevant because it is being utilized by Mr. Chance to set up their communications with the assault team. You saw her just a minute ago putting in her passcode and handing the phone so Mr. Chance could utilize it. They are there to track and to stalk and to hunt Charles Jones, and then to provide real-time location information to Mr. Gathright, who was driving his Impala with both of the Murphys in the Impala, the assault team. There's the surveillance team. So as I said, and again, this video is slightly off, but Mr. Jones arrives, that's in front, that's the front entrance to Teasers. You see at the bottom, it's 2:29:49 a.m. is the converted time. The date is correct. This is early Sunday morning now. And now you see Mr. Chance still there with his girlfriend. And then around 2:54:22 a.m. real time in the morning, Mr. Jones and his friends leave Teasers. Now, you will see in the evidence, you will see video evidence of Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews arriving, and you will see the direction that they travel on foot and the direction they travel in the car. They exit shortly before this, they exit, but they stay nearby, and at 2:54:22, Mr. Jones begins to leave. 2:54:22, shortly or right around the same time, because again, this time on the top of this screen is off a little bit, you will see the Chevy Impala with these three individuals, Rashad Murphy, Sean Gathright driving, and Davion Murphy in that vehicle. It is like within a minute of Mr. Jones coming out of the club and beginning to leave that they arrive on the north end of the parking lot in the Impala. And they pull in, they're going to be right behind the car that's already in. They're the ones pulling in off of Nebraska southbound. And there they are, fully inside of the parking lot. This is the north side of the business. They end up going westbound and then southbound, and then they come back on the road that sits on the south side of Teasers, passing in front of the entrance. This is Mr. Jones and his friends leaving. You see the three cars with the taillights lighting up. The one on the left of the screen is the Charger. So this is the path of travel. The green is Mr. Jones and his friends parked directly in front. That's the front part, the south end of the building. That photograph is in the normal orientation of a map. North on the top, south on the bottom, west to the left, east to the right. So at almost precisely the time that he exits the front to leave, the Impala comes south on Nebraska, pulls into the north end in the red arrows, goes to the west, then to the south, onto South Castle, and comes right by. There are a lot of folks standing in front of that club at that point. Now, the blue markers are the Chevy Cruze. So you can see the Chevy Cruze enters, parks. You see the rectangle on the north side of the parking lot. That's where Mr. Chance parked. The little ovals and dots are where he and Miss Andrews walked. They walked through the parking lot and came around to the south end so they could look down the front of the building and see what was going on while they were on Miss Andrews' phone communicating with Mr. Gathright. Mr. Jones and his friends then traveled to an after party, and this is on Bush Boulevard. This is the south side of Bush Boulevard. This is a club called Truth 18. It sits in a strip mall. It's on the second floor of the strip mall. So you're going to see them going upstairs. At one point, you're going to see Mr. Jones live streaming on Instagram with his phone, celebrating his birthday. Let me stop that.
Turn that down a bit.
Charger pulling in front, and then the Hyundai. The camera angle is from the second floor of the strip mall right near where Truth 18 is, pointing what would have been northbound into the parking lot. So now they're all parked. To the far left, you see the Nissan Altima, Miss Albrecht in her pink suit, Tafa McCrae in his blue shirt. On the right-hand side, you see that's the edge. On the farthest right-hand side of the Dodge Charger, you'll see Mr. Jones step out in a minute. To the upper left, or upper part to the left, is Miss Turner and Miss Randolph getting out of the Hyundai, and then some other friends. Now you're going to see them going up the stairs. The people on the upper balcony on the right are near Truth 18. So Mr. Jones in the red shorts, red cap. That's Mr. Norris with the number 8 shirt on in front. And you can see there's a lot of well-wishers and friends that early morning with Mr. Jones, and he'll start live streaming here in a minute. This video is being sped up right now. You're going to see the Chevy Cruze arrive on the top of the screen. This is pointing southbound from the north. And Now, in the top part of the screen, you see Mr. Chance walking with his hood and his mask, holding the phone to his ear with Miss Andrews right in front of Truth 18. Cruise is parked over to that side of the nightclub, to the what would be the east side. They go down the park or down the sidewalk. They come back. And now, about 30 minutes later, 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later, Mr. Jones and his friends start.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you over all the background noise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're turning the volume.
Judge, I'm sorry, we can't hear a thing.
I know, I'm asking Mr. Harmon to either turn the volume down, or if he's gonna talk, then stop the video and talk.
Okay. Let me know. So now we're in a section of the video. You can see the Impala. This is, again, that southbound video, which would be just to the east of Truth 18. You saw the Impala pulling into the parking lot of a business to the east there. I believe it's an Enterprise car rental. They pull into a spot and they sit there. The video is being sped up for time's sake. Now you see it pulling out. You'll see them pull across the street, turn around, come back so that they're facing Bush Boulevard at a stop sign. Right there, right in the upper right-hand corner. Cameras on the bottom floor at the strip mall where the Truth 18, below Truth 18, depicting Mr. Jones and his friends leaving. You'll see them all drive one direction, turn around, and come back the other direction. They'll pull on to Bush Boulevard. They'll head initially eastbound and then do a U-turn and go back westbound towards 40th Street. Charger just pulled out with the Hyundai behind it, heading to the right as you look at the screen. The Hyundai's now stopped, waiting for the Charger to go by, and Ms. Turner follows Mr. Jones. The Altima's being delayed by that car parking, and now Mr. McCrae is following. They will pull onto Bush, as I said. They will go to the east. You will see them in the middle, top part of the screen doing U-turns. There is a turning lane there. That's Mr. Jones' Charger. You see the sweep of his headlights. He is heading back now westbound towards 40th Street, followed by the Hyundai, and now Mr. McCrae and the Altima. There goes the silver Chevy Cruze in pursuit, following, being driven by Mr. Chance. This is the intersection of McKinley and Fowler. To the upper right-hand corner, upper right corner of the screen is the Home to Suites Holiday Inn complex. To the bottom of the screen is the entrance to the University of South Florida. And you see Mr. Jones and his friends pulling up, heading northbound. That's their headlights, and they've got their indicators, blinkers on. You will see them do a U-turn. Head back south on McKinley, 40th Street, and turn right. Here goes Mr. Jones. They will turn right into the Holiday Inn. Now, as they're doing this, you see approaching headlights to the left coming northbound on McKinley. That is the Chevy Cruze being driven by Mr. Chance. He passes by them as they're pulling into the hotel. Mr. Chance turns to the right, heading eastbound on Fowler. He drives down, comes back westbound, and you will see him now turning into the University of South Florida, where he stages at the Embassy Suites. And now those headlights heading north. That is the Chevy Impala, which was, the evidence will show, nowhere in sight when Mr. Jones and his friends turned into the hotel. But you'll see them do a U-turn and turn right into the hotel. Now they're going southbound, the Impala, and they're going to turn into the hotel. When they turn in, like we saw earlier, they take an immediate right in the parking lot and go up the east side of the hotel to avoid the portico. They go up to the northern end of the parking lot. They go westbound across the northern end, and now you see the Chevy Cruze, by the way, blowing through a red light on Fowler to follow and turn into the Home to Suites. You're going to see several camera angles now from the Home to Suites picking up the Impala as it travels in a circle around the north side of the hotel complex, coming out on the west side of the hotel, around the corner from the portico. These are the individuals in the Impala. The driver, Mr. Gathright, and both the Murphys. So, again, color-coded. We're now looking again at the overhead of the Home to Suites and the Holiday Inn. Home to Suites is the vertical, Holiday Inn to the left of the screen is the horizontal building. The red is the Impala. And you see it goes right into the parking lot, takes an immediate right, goes up the east side of the parking lot to the north side, then goes west on the top of the parking lot, all the way around the Holiday Inn, the evidence will show, and comes out, that last arrow to the far left, on the west side of the Home to Suites. On the west side of the Home to Suites in the center of the white roof of the Home to Suites, you see a purple icon. Just to the left of that, where it says Home to Suites, you see a rectangular aqua color. That's a pool area. There are chairs, tables to that part of the hotel with some grills out there. And then there is that road. Just to the north of that, of where you see the pool, in between what would be the top left corner of the Home to Suites and the far right edge of the Holiday Inn, is the grassy area where the Dodge Charger flees, popping over the curbs there, waking up Mr. Norris in the back seat, and then comes to rest in that north parking lot. You see the green, that's Mr. Jones and his friends where they parked, where we saw earlier. And then the path of the cruise. The cruise comes, it blows through the red light at Fowler, moving quickly, comes down, following the Impala, turns into the hotel, goes right past Mr. Jones and his friends, turns to the west side. You're going to see video of most of this. Turns onto the west side of the hotel, goes up, does a three-point turn, comes back to the south, and exits just before the shooting. All right, so this is a camera on the east side of the Home to Suites that is facing southeast. On the top part of the screen is 40th Street, McKinley. You're going to see the Impala. As it turns into the hotel, it'll take an immediate right and cut across the top of the screen head, which is northbound. There's the throw of its headlights as it's turning in. And now it's heading northbound on the east side of the hotel. Same direction those red arrows showed you earlier. Next camera, this one faces north-northeast, picks up the Impala as it heads further north to the north end of the parking lot. This camera is on the north end of the Home to Suites, picks up the Impala heading into that northern part of the parking lot. And now it's on the west side. You see the pool to the upper right corner. You see that recreational area there with tables and chairs and grills. So you see the Impala comes down on the west side. It creeps down a little bit, but never breaks around the corner to where it can be seen by Mr. Jones or his friends. In fact, it turns and goes back to the north. And you're going to see the car turn to the left and park. Here comes the Chevy Cruze. These cars on the west side of the hotel will pass within feet of each other. There's the Cruze. The Cruze will go up almost even, and that's Tesla video picking up the Impala going to the left. And you'll see part of the three-point turn that the Cruze makes. It just did a wide turn so it can back up and come back to the south. Now it's backing up and it'll turn hard left and come back to the south. Meanwhile, the Impala has gone around the corner and parked just to the opposite side of the Tesla charging station. So you can see now the upper part, you can see a car moving into a spot. That is the Impala. It backs out a little bit, and then we'll pull back in. Just a little bit of a glimpse of it up there. And now the Cruze is going back south to exit. So this is going to be a combined conglomerate of videos from that Ring video at the gazebo pond drive unit of the Airbnb where the conspirators stay overnight. And as I said, on the 22nd, the only person that enters is Miss Andrews. You'll see the next set of videos coming from the following day, after these conspirators have gone back there and got some rest, and now they're preparing to leave to go back to Jacksonville, mission accomplished. And this is when you will see them getting sloppy. You will see Mr. Chance appear on this video. You will see Mr. Davion Murphy appear on the video. And you'll see Mr. Gathright appearing on the video. This is when they first arrive on Saturday. This is the next day. The neighbor next to them is apparently moving in the unit next to them. That has nothing to do with them. Mr. Chance, and you can see over his shoulder right there, that is an Uber driver that has shown up to take Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews and Rashad Murphy back to Jacksonville. They travel back in an Uber. You'll hear testimony from the Uber driver that he picked up 3 people and drove them to Jacksonville, dropping them back at Sean Gathwright's residence. There goes Davion Murphy coming from the other side, from the back side. There's Mr. Davion Murphy. There's Mr. Gathright walking out with bags. Mr. Chance. Just before leaving. And Mr. Gathright.
The code is 09095.
Getting the code from Mr. Chance to get back in. Now, you'll see Mr. Gathright go to the side. He'll leave in the Impala by himself. Davion Murphy drives the Chevy Cruze back to Jacksonville. So, all of them go back to Jacksonville except Sean Gathright. Mr. Gathright, again, picked up on a license plate reader. This time, well, this is the other one we looked at earlier where he's coming. But you can see now he's being picked up on the 23rd at 4:13 hours, eastbound I-4. He is going out I-4 to the east. And then you see below that, at 4:25 hours, southbound Florida 595 and C. Fred Jones Parkway in Polk County. He is traveling to his grandmother's house in Auburndale at Opal Avenue, Auburndale. Here's Mr. Gathright. He has parked the Chevy Impala and he's walking inside. You will also see him come out of the garage through another camera. He will start wiping down. This has been accelerated. He's wiping the car down. And he ends up switching cars with his grandmother, leaving the Impala there in Auburndale and taking a Toyota 4Runner. He drives the 4Runner to Orlando and then back to Jacksonville. But first he wipes down the Impala. There's the 4Runner. The Impala is now inside the garage. Says goodbye to his grandmother. Everything's accelerated here, trying to save some time. He travels to Orlando, and again, you see some cell phone mapping occurring down there in the low left corner. I'm going to talk to you again about that in a few minutes. I'm going to go through that with you. But you can see Lake Eola, which is in downtown Orlando, and that first white box in the middle of the screen. Just below that, you see Church Street. He is being picked up. His phone is, he is at Parlay nightclub in Orlando. And he takes this picture of Don Julio and posts it. You'll also see some other images from that evening. He is there with other people and appears to be celebrating. This would be the night of the actual murder, and then it goes into the early morning hours of the 24th. You can see in that photograph, again, just going back to show Mr. Chance and his girlfriend going out with their bags to the Infinity, which is an Uber driver. This is the Uber. There's the receipt from Uber in the middle. It's $187, a 208-mile ride from Gazebo Pond back to Chipperfield Lane in Jacksonville to Mr. Gathrights' address. Gives the route. Uber driver will tell you he picked up 3 people and dropped them off at the address, which is Mr. Gathrights' house. This is them arriving, again, back at the place that it all started, at Mr. Gathrights' house. Now, that's Miss Andrews by Mr. Chance's BMW. And you see Rashad Murphy in the light-colored jeans, holding the bag in his left hand with a beret or some kind of a cap on, opening the back door, putting a bag in it. You can see the Uber driver moving around on the left side of the vehicle, and on the right-hand side is Mr. Chance. Again, even the ghost, Mr. Murphy, got sloppy here. It was picked up on this video. Mr. Murphy wearing jeans that are consistent with him, what he was wearing 2 days later when the silver Chevy Cruze was stopped in Gwinnett County, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, where Mr. Rashad Murphy had fled. Mr. Gathright. Mr. Gathright ends up on that same date, June 26, he's back in Jacksonville. He gets pulled over for a traffic infraction. Officers speak with him. They end up getting him out of his car. They end up searching the 4Runner. And they find, among other items, these items. Now, the Max Tech ammunition, there are 2 boxes full of 9mm Max Tech, which is a brand of 9mm ammunition suitable for being fired in a 9mm Glock. Max Tech is the same exact type of ammunition that was fired in this murder. There were 31 shell casings found in the crime scene, 9mm shell casings. They were all Max Tech brand shell casings. So that ammunition is found in his car. Incidentally, I mentioned earlier to you that these conspirators modified their weapons. And it wasn't just the Glock handgun that was modified to be fully automatic. When officers first arrived at the crime scene, at the murder scene, and began their investigation, they responded to the north end where the Dodge Charger had come to rest with Mr. Jones' body in it. Mr. Jones was laying across the center console. During this attack, he had turned, a bullet grazed through his right arm, it slammed into his chest, it ripped through his heart, and ripped through his aorta, which is the largest artery in the human body. As he continued to turn and try to go into the back seat over the center console, 2 other rounds hit him in the lower back. Those would go through his liver. By the time they reached the northern parking lot, Mr. Norris will tell you that Mr. Jones appeared to be dead. Officers who arrive there after hearing all the 911 calls, they go to where the Charger is up by the Holiday Inn. And like I told you earlier, the officers follow the massive blood trail left by Mr. Edwards and left by Mr. Norris as they fled into the Holiday Inn. Mr. Norris will tell you they ran because they didn't know where these shooters were. They thought they could still be around, so they ran directly into the nearest building, which was the Holiday Inn. They even got on the elevator, leaving this blood trail. You'll even see where they were grabbing a hold of doors, trying to knock on doors and open doors to get help. You'll see their blood on the door handles. They go up and just get off at the 3rd floor, leaving a blood trail. Officers arrive. They really don't know what they're dealing with at that point. They have all these 911 calls. They find this bullet-riddled Dodge Charger. They see the blood trail. They don't know if that's victims or shooters. Officers go in there. They think they're going to be confronting shooters, or at least they have to act that way. So they go into the hotel. They follow the blood trail. They go up to the 3rd floor where they find Xavier Edwards and Mr. Norris laying on the ground with their wounds, and they start rendering aid. Other officers arrive and begin their investigation. They start getting reports that there is a lot of damage to the south end of the home to suites in that portico. So a uniformed officer goes down there, and he's looking at the damage, and he's seeing all these 9mm shell casings laying there. But what he's not seeing are rifle shell casings. And you saw in those videos, and you will see in this evidence, there was a lot of rifle fire, 2 rifles firing at a high cyclical rate. There's not one rifle shell casing in that scene. And that's because these conspirators modified their weapons. They modified those AR-15 rifles by putting what are called brass catchers on the rifles. That is, it's a mesh-type device that has a little metal wire frame, and it fits onto above the ejection port of the rifle, and it catches the shell casings as they're being ejected, so that there's no evidence left. And that's why there were no rifle casings in that scene. I want to talk real quick before I move forward into Mr. Gathrights stop there in Jacksonville about the attack that you've all seen now on video and have described to you. This evidence in this case will clearly show you that this was a collective orchestration of a collective intent, an intent based on malice and hatred. These shooters struck with suddenness and speed and overwhelming firepower. They brought not 2, but 3 shooters, 2 high-powered rifles, and a fully automatic handgun into a concentrated area, easily and rapidly establishing not fire superiority, but fire supremacy over the victim and his friends. Firing with absolute, you saw in that video, the evidence will show impunity, absolute disregard for anyone that may have been in the vicinity that they were firing in. The majority of the fire funneled directly into that Dodge Charger. But make no mistake about it, every single round that was fired that night, every one of them was dripping with the combined hatred and malice of all 4 of these defendants. All 4 of them. You saw how they took advantage of this ambush, and you saw their determination. How when Mr. Edwards attempted to flee, they followed him with their rifles, shooting at that car as it was fleeing up the northbound. They were not going to stop until they were sure he was dead. Firing again without regard for human life. This ambush spot was really a perfect ambush spot. Mr. Jones was sitting, as I talked about earlier, in his car. That caged him in a way in and of itself. To his left was the employee's car. Behind him was the Hyundai, his girlfriend's car. He had nowhere to go because to the right of him were the walls of the hotel. A hotel. And on the other side of the walls of that hotel was concentrated, dense humanity. The hotel was packed. It was full of human beings, of people. Mr. Jones and his friends were turned away. Their room had been given away. The hotel was full of people, parents with their children there to attend orientation at USF, parents with their children and other people here in Tampa, sightseeing. That hotel's located right up the road from Busch Gardens and the Yuengling Brewery. They were here. All of those people in that car, in that hotel, none of that affected these shooters. They shot with impunity and with disregard for anyone in the area. And you'll hear those rifle rounds that were being shot by Mr. Davion Murphy and by Mr. Gathright as they pursued the Charger up the northwest side of the hotel. There are impacts up and down that western side of that hotel, several of which went through windows, several of which coursed through hotel rooms above sleeping guests, sleeping in their beds. You will hear from one guest who will tell you she was there with her husband and her daughter's boyfriend. Her daughter's boyfriend, they were awake and grabbed her, bringing her to the ground to try to protect her. These conspirators had no cause for concern. There was mass confusion caused by the surprise and this firepower. You saw the fleeing cars, the Hyundai and the Altima, crashing into each other and going in different directions. They didn't know what had hit them. Camilla Bentley gets shot in the arm. She flees southbound on McKinley. She goes to Advent, well, she drives a distance away, and then she goes back and picks up Tafa and Aaliyah Albright and her friends. And then they go to Advent Health where she's treated. Amani Turner, the victim's girlfriend, they're not from Tampa. They don't know where they are. She just gets out of there and goes south on McKinley. Somehow, she ends up going eastbound on Fowler, away from the hotel, and comes upon a USF Police Department traffic stop. They get out of the car, her and Mr. Howard, they make contact with the police, who can barely understand them because they're so frantic. They get back in their car, and they take off. The police try to follow them, but they are going so fast that it's hard for them to keep up. Miss Turner comes into, again, coming back to the west, the intersection of McKinley and Fowler. Instead of turning left and going south and going in the entrance that the conspirators took and Mr. Jones and them had taken initially, she just goes straight into the landscape. She goes over the curb, over the grass, over the bushes, into the parking lot, and ends up by the Dodge Charger in the north end of the parking lot. A TPD officer responding sees her doing that and follows her, not knowing what her involvement is. Mass confusion, but not confusion to these four conspirators because they simply slip away into the darkness of this confusion. They slip away and go back to their Airbnb where they hole up until they go back to Jacksonville. During this attack, I talked about there being fire supremacy, but I want you all to be assured in this evidence, there was not one round, not a one that went anywhere other than towards Charles Jones and his friends. There wasn't one round, not even one, that was fired back in defense. because there was no defense to this planned attack. As I said earlier, they laid down a solid wall of lead. Without a single round of resistance, the evidence will show. Nothing, zero. And they completely and utterly leveraged surprise, speed, and violence of action. Surprise, speed, and violence of action. They surprised Mr. Jones by their coordinated efforts, completely catching him off guard. He sat in the front seat of his car as helpless as a child, defenseless, completely at their mercy, and they showed none. They then acted with speed to maintain the advantage that they had gained.
There's been an objection. So I'm just getting Mr. Harmon again. This is just opening statement as far as what the state believes the evidence will show. So.
They went to their firing positions rapidly, using speed in this attack, maintaining the advantage that they had gained through the surprise of this ambush. Violence of action. They brought overwhelming firepower. As I said, not one high-powered rifle, but two. Not a single shooter, three shooters, triangulating their fire. One, Davion Murphy, acting as a backup shooter, as a hedge against flight, which worked like a charm in this case because Mr. Edwards drove right in to that vortex of fire. These conspirators were taking no chances. Not this time. Charles Jones would not escape this attack. Now, going back to Mr. Gathride's traffic stop. So he has 2 boxes of ammunition. The brand matches the brand of the 9mm shell casings in the scene. There are a lot of brands you will hear from the firearms examiner and analyst who the state of Florida will call from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's crime laboratory here in Tampa, an expert in firearms and tool mark analysis. She will tell you, and you will also hear from a detective, Bernardo de Jesus, who has a lot of expertise in Glock firearms, AR-15s, and the firearms industry as a whole, that there are many, many, many types of 9mm ammunition. Federal, Remington, Spear, CCI, Fiocchi, all kinds of brands. And out of all those brands, Mr. Gathright had MaxTech in his car. The same brand as the 9mm ammunition found, the shell casings that were left in the scene. He also had this box in that 4Runner, a box that was full of 5.56 NATO shell casings and 223 Remington shell casings, both of which can be fired, you will hear in the evidence, from a 5.56 caliber chambered rifle. They are both compatible with being fired. Now, in this investigation, you heard that this wasn't the first attempt on Charles Jones' life. 9 months earlier, when he was leaving his house at 6 in the morning, 6 hours after the murder of Antonio Tilley, attackers with high-powered rifles shot up his car when he pulled up to a stop sign. He was able to escape with his life. He had a leg wound. Incidentally, that bullet stayed in his body and was recovered from his leg during the autopsy in this case. But those attackers did not use brass catchers, and law enforcement collected several rifle shell casings in that scene. And they compared them to these shell casings from Mr. Gathride's 4Runner. And guess what? They were identified to each other as having been fired by the same rifle. Mr. Gathride's house, just a standard suburban house. You see the 4Runner sitting there in front. Again, this is where they left from on that Saturday. Officers from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office obtained a search warrant, and they searched Mr. Gathride's house. One of the things they found was in the sink, they found all this items torn up, paper, cardboard, plastic, soaking in water. And when they took it out and put it onto a sheet of paper to let it dry, they noticed that all of these wrappings and packagings all dealt with firearms. There's Magpul, there's Sig Sauer. These are all manufacturers of firearms, ammunition, and firearm components. During the search of this residence, they found ammunition boxes with ammunition. That box is full of, the evidence will show, 5.56 NATO rounds loaded, some shotgun shells. This box is full of 5.56 NATO rounds. And then they looked at this safe. Inside the safe, they located some rifles, and they located a brass catcher. This one had been detached. But inside of that brass catcher, they located 2 9mm shell casings. Those shell casings were compared to a 9mm shell casing from the scene of Mr. Jones' murder by the same firearms analyst, Amara Drew, the same analyst I was talking about earlier. And these 2 shell casings were matched to that shell casing that was fired from that fully automatic Glock in the murder, in our case, of Mr. Jones. This was found in Mr. Gathride's residence inside of a brass catcher. And then they found a rifle with an attached brass catcher. And they found another rifle, both AR-style rifles, one a .300 Blackout, one a 5.56 NATO chambered rifle. They found magazines for 5.56, also can be utilized with .300 Blackout to run in an AR-15. That magazine, that's the top of the magazine where the bullets feed into the gun, that is 5.56 ammunition. And then this is back at the sheriff's office. We saw earlier some of the ammunition that's laid out. In July, Mr. Chance and his girlfriend were detained and arrested at Mr. Chance's residence in Jacksonville. This is July 27th, and a summer rain shower by officers from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. That's Mr. Chance, who had been called out of his residence and backed up and came out before being handcuffed, and Miss Andrews. We saw this earlier with Mr. Chance. So I want to talk to you real briefly. I want to start talking specifically about each defendant, some evidence that you're going to hear and see that's related individually to these 4 defendants. But first, you will see in the evidence there was a lot of what's called cell phone mapping, where the historical use of a cell phone is looked into and investigated. That is a cell tower. We see those everywhere in our communities. On the top of the cell tower are the antennas. This cell tower has 3 sides to it. Those vertical items are antennas that are pointing off of those 3 sides. Now, what this shows, this is just a demonstrative exhibit to show you that each cell tower, especially ones that are 3-sided like that, there will be 360-degree coverage all the way around the cell tower. But each of those sides covers a third of that 360 degrees. So each of them is covering 120 degrees. And that's what that is showing. And those are called sectors. Sectors. You saw earlier some mapping, shading that looked pie shape. That's why you will see that over the next several slides. So when you look at a slide like this, This is a mapping of one of the defendant's phones in the murder scene. You see the icon murder scene, that's right there, south of the University of South Florida. So when you're looking at that, the apex of those lines, the corner, is where the cell tower is. And then that is the sector of that cell tower. Those antennas are covering that third of the 360 degrees. And that area out there is where the handset, the phone, is, because it's connecting to that side of the cell tower. Mr. Gathright, this is a photograph from one of the cameras on the Tesla that picked up Mr. Gathright and Mr. Murphy running around the front end of that Tesla. You can see he is literally covered head to toe. Head to toe. He's wearing a hoodie, something black over his face, maybe a gaiter or some kind of a bandana. He's carrying a rifle, but you can still see a sliver of the top of his face, that it's light-skinned, and you can see his hands are light-skinned and that he has a very thin build. So we start here with Mr. Gathright. This is when he is at his house. Remember, we saw this video earlier. This is the same time, 2:45:48, when they're loading the Impala on June 22nd, and his phone is hitting off a cell tower that his house lays in that sector. So it is mapping his cell phone while he is there. This is a mapping of him leaving Jacksonville and heading down to Tampa and going through. So what you're going to see as this mapping proceeds, each time you see a line being generated, it's giving the date, the time, and the latitude, longitude coordinates of that connection, the phone connecting to a cell tower. You can see the sides of the cell tower being utilized, and now you can see the phone is moving as it connects to one cell tower, moving to another, moving to the next. So it demonstrates movement of the cell phone. Now he is heading down past, you see Gainesville. Soon you'll see him getting off of 301 onto 75 South. He's going down through Ocala, coming straight down. His phone is down 75. Now you see the markers down here relevant to our case. You see the Airbnb. You see him utilizing towers right south of the Airbnb. His phone will sit there for quite a while until about 9:30, and then his phone will travel down to the Teasers Club, which I'll come back to here momentarily. And then back to Airbnb, where it stays for a little bit, into the latter part of the 22nd, going into the morning of the 23rd. And now he starts moving back to Teasers. This is around the time that Mr. Jones is showing up at the club. Mr. Gathright's phone is right there. And now he's moving again, and now he's over by Truth 18. And now his phone is tracking. You'll see it start tracking away from Truth 18, back up McKinley to the murder scene, and then back to the Airbnb, where it'll stay for quite a while. Now he tracks eastbound across I-4, past Lakeland, over into Polk County, to Auburndale. what you saw in there was at about 9:30, Mr. Gathright, after arriving around 7:30, 7:45 to the Airbnb, about 2 hours later, he travels down to Teasers at 9:30, many hours before Mr. Jones gets there. He's casing Teasers. He's checking the lay of the land at Teasers. And you're going to hear in the evidence that he is searching for Mr. Jones, looking and monitoring.
Okay, again, Mr. Harmon, just a reminder that this is the evidence that the state believes you will show, okay?
Yes, the evidence will show that during this time period, Mr. Gathright is searching online for Mr. Jones. He is seeing the postings on Instagram, but again, that requires him to DM Mr. Jones to get his address. They're trying to locate Mr. Jones. So here is his cell phone hitting at Teasers at 9:35. He has left the Airbnb. Now he heads back to the Airbnb around 10:30, 10:40. Now he's back at Teasers and then over to Truth 18. You can see his phone is in the sector of that cell tower just to the east of Truth 18. There he is at Truth 18. And now you can see in the middle of your screen, it's kind of light, kind of hard to see, the murder scene. His phone is at the murder scene, and there are 2 towers south of the murder scene that he is in their northbound sectors, and then there's another tower just to the east, and he's in the westbound sector. Now, you will also find in the evidence that Mr. Gathright sends a text to a girl named Kyla. And he says on the top, I need you all to text Fat Boy. He sends this around 12:32. All right? Fat Boy is Xavier Edwards. I need you to text him. Kyla texts back, about what? He texts back, sis, I need you to text Fat Boy. Tell him you trying to pull up about trying to see him tonight. She texts back, he know I'm gone. Him while I'm out. Then he texts Kyla back. He in Tampa. But make it seem like you know he there. He had a B&B with 6. That's Mr. Jones, Mr. 6. Be like, I can't remember, what is it? Where are you at? Be like, where you at? I want to pull up. I'm drunk and you trying to F. And then he texts her, never mind, in VO. Then she texts back, still before 1 o'clock a.m. on the 23rd. Who B&B? 6. That's Mr. Jones. Fools. Mr. Jones, Foolio. It's his B-Day and Fat Boy with him. Xavier Edwards. Mr. Gathwright's trying to locate, the evidence will show clearly, trying to locate Mr. Jones on the night of his murder. She texts back, not here in JX, Jacksonville. Nah, they in Tampa. She says, what? But play like you know it. Then she says, Fat Boy going to Beezer's tonight or some shit like that. Beezer's, Teasers. So she has communicated with him. Is he there yet? He wants to know at 1:25, and she says no. So he is utilizing this girl, Kyla, to contact Xavier Edwards to get information on the whereabouts of Charles Jones within hours of his murder. Now, Mr. Gathright is receiving messages from Alicia Andrews' phone, which is saved in his account under the name Bron, B-R-O-N, at 2 o'clock in the morning, around the time that they're at Teasers.
Your Honor, can we approach briefly?
Sure.
All right. Well, while they do this approach, let me see. I think they take a break here. Looks like they take a break.
I don't have a problem. I notice some of your standing, which is fine. I don't have a problem at all if I'm talking with the attorneys. Do we need a break? Somebody need a comfort break? Anybody?
Yes, so it's going
Okay, okay. So it is 12:01. We are going to take a little bit of a later lunch. I want to at least give the state a chance to wrap up their opening statement. We'll take a relatively quick lunch break, and then we will proceed with the defense opening statements if they choose to make one. Okay? All right, so just a quick 10-minute comfort break. All right?
All right.
All right, so let's go through our notes that we've have so far. So state's opening, it was his birthday. He was there celebrating in Tampa. He traveled here. He was being watched, followed, stalked. He lived his last moments of his 26 years. Plot was hatched with every one of their collective evil purpose, the premeditated murder of Charles Jones. It was their hatred that drove them. So they say he only saw the people only for a second. They dressed like ninjas. They came out of the dark. They were wearing disguises to hide their identity. He was sitting in the front seat of his Dodge Charger. He was the perfect target. He was caught off guard in an ambush. It was organized carefully and it was intended. He was unable to run or dive, basically caged in the front seat. He was a sitting duck. They released a hellish onslaught, sending a barrage, a wall of hot lead, crashing into the barriers that were no match. He talks about the 5.56 and the 300 blackout, long thousands of feet per second, 12,000 foot-pounds of lethal energy. He talks about the Glock. He says not used as a semi-automatic, but had been converted to a fully automatic hand cannon. Then they show the video of the shooting, to which I've blocked that out. This conspiracy was hatched days and weeks before. They had to travel over 500 miles. Their reservations were being made, weapons, housing, communications, transportation. They talk about Isaiah Chance. They talk about Sean Gathright. They talk about Davion Murphy, and they talk about Rashad Murphy. Now, Isaiah Chance is known as Gutta, or Gutta Man, or Gutta Zay. We've got Sean Gathright. He's known as Bama. We got Rashad Murphy, who is Ghost, or Ghost 187. And then we got Davion Murphy, who is Fat Steppa. Then we go to Alicia. They talk about Alicia Andrews. She's the girlfriend of Isaiah and would provide surveillance with Isaiah. Then they talk about the motive. So they go into this gang war in Jacksonville. And again, we've done deep dives on this. We've covered the KTA and the ATK beef. So if you guys want to check that out, we'll link that into the description. But he goes into this gang war. Talks about Gerard Adams, also known as Spaz. He's a 1200. He's associated. He was taken out August 28th. We talk about Adrian Bibby Gaynor. He's with 6 Block. He's affiliated with 6 Block. Then he talks about the ops. You'll hear the word ops or opposition. He talks about Bully Gang, Jaquan Jake, or Jaquan Jake Pickens, or it's called Jake Jit. He was taken out August 16th of 2023. Then we talk about Lil Colby, Jacoby Beals. He's a 1200 gang member. He was taken out, he survived August 17th of 2023. Then we have Antonio Tilley. He's an ATK gang member. He was taken out on October 6th of 2023. And then hours after that, Charles Jones, Julio Foolio, was shot at, but he survived, and that was October 7th. That's when he had a foot fragment was still left in his, foot. Now, He talks about drill rap. You would demean the ops in lyrics, traveling to grave sites. You desecrate them. They play Who I Smoke, which has Young and Ace in it, Spinabens, Wappa with the Choppa, and Fast Money Goon. They point up to the sky, and you'll see the names of their ops, which is Bibby, Tiki, and Lil Nine. Then Spinabens and Wappa come out with a song a few days after the shooting called Foolio Dead. They mention Six and Mr. Six, which is what Charles Jones goes by as well. And then Young and Ace comes out with Game Over, and they play all of those. Then let's see that we have When I See You. That video is played. And again, we went through all of this, and you can check out the videos on your own, but we went through all of this in our pretrial prep. Then he talks about this Home to Suites Hilton. So Charles Jones, he made a reservation, right? So he was kicked out of his Airbnb. The owner kicked him out because they were making too much noise. They're partying too much. So he goes over to this Hilton. He makes the reservation, but they arrived too late. So they had to wait outside to get another room. So, excuse me, we have, he talks, we go through the shooting video. So we have Armani Turner, Adjoa Randolph, Robert Howard, Tifa McCrae, and Aaliyah Albrighton. So Xavier Edwards is injured in the upper right arm. Gino Norris, he's also injured in the upper right arm. He was apparently asleep at the time, and they leave a trail of blood. They get shot at. They run, or they basically crash their car. They run into the hotel, and there's this. It's a trail that the police found them in the elevator, and they're knocking on doors, trying to get door handles. Camilla Bentley was shot. She was grazed. She was in another car, so she was grazed in the upper right arm as well. So Julio was posting on Instagram. He's going to perform at Teasers. It's his birthday party. He's posting on Instagram saying, "Hey, I'm at this Airbnb. Come and hang out with us. I'm at Teasers. Come hang out. Come hang out with us there." So he's just letting the world know where he is, right? So it is what it is. Then he talks about the plan to go from Jacksonville to Tampa, and this flock, which is license plate readers. They follow them. Isaiah uses a car outside the group, so it's Rashad and Davion's. It's his brother, so it's his nephew. So that's a Chevy Cruze. All right, so they arrive Sunday. So Sunday morning, Charles arrives at Teasers around 2:30. He talks about Isaiah and Alicia arriving, and they're just kind of walking back and forth in the parking lot, making phone calls. Sean is driving the Chevy Impala that has Rashad and Davion in it. Let's see. CJ goes to an after party then. Okay, so Charles Jones goes to an after party at Truth 18 to keep celebrating. That's when he goes live on his Instagram. Then they get to the hotel, and they show the shooting and all that stuff. I wasn't able to show that. And then afterwards, so they take a Uber back to, so Sean takes the Impala, goes back towards Orlando, excuse me, goes to his grandmother's house in Auburndale, wipes down his Impala, borrows her Toyota 4Runner, and meanwhile, Isaiah, Alicia, and Rashad take an Uber. It's 208 miles from Tampa to Jacksonville. It costs him $187, right? So Davion takes another car. I think, I don't have my notes right now, but he takes another car. Does he take the Chevy Cruze? I think he takes the Chevy Cruze. Anyway, I'm just going to keep moving forward. Then Sean is arrested at a traffic stop, and they find within his car shell casings that just happened to match the casings found at the scene. Then they go to his house and they find more long firearms and ammo, and there's casings that match the shooting in October of the previous year and of Julio, and then also there was a fragment found in Julio's foot that match. So that's where we are. So let's fast forward. Let's continue on. Oh, there was this text between Sean and this Kyla about Fat Boy, who is Xavier Edwards, and he's basically, it's showing that Sean is in the area. Not only is he's in Tampa, he's at the hotel, he's at Teasers, he's at Truth 18. So they have a lot of cell phone data on him. All right, let's continue on. We're going to get through states openings.
I know that you all know this. Pursuant to the local professionalism rules, it's one attorney per witness or whatever we're discussing. So when I say everyone approach, it really should be just whatever attorney is responsible for either whether it's opening or closing or the witness, so that way it's not always a crowd. And so whoever's going to make the objections is the person to approach when we need to approach, okay? And that's pursuant to the local rules of professionalism. Okay, we ready to go? Yep. Okay. Everyone have a seat. Mr. Harmon, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. So what I was saying before we broke, Miss Andrews' phone starts sharing her live location with Mr. Gathright at 2. Of course, that is Mr. Chance. We saw that in the other evidence doing that. In this slide, you can see that when the Impala is seen in the north end of the parking lot at Teasers, Mr. Gathright, the driver of that car, his cell phone is hitting off of cell towers around Teasers. The cell tower to the north, he is in the southeastern sector, the cell tower to the south, the northern sector. When they are at Truth 18, you can see the Impala on video, and at the same time, Mr. Gathwright's phone is hitting off a tower just to the east of Truth 18. More messaging. Miss Andrews' device sends live location to him at 4:25 a.m., about 10 minutes before the murder occurs. And again, that's going to be Mr. Chance utilizing her phone to do that. And then when the Impala is seen at the murder scene, Mr. Gathwright's phone is hitting off of multiple towers right there in that scene. Mr. Gathwright's phone, when he is seen on video holding his phone, talking to Mr. Chance, getting the code, is hitting off of a tower just south of the Airbnb. His phone, when he is at his grandmother's house in Auburndale, is hitting off a tower just to the south of that address, and when he's in Orlando, it's hitting there. His phone is a communication with Isaiah Chance. Now, these are different. This is CDRs, call detail records. This is a list of all calls made, dates, times, outgoing, incoming, the phone being called or the phone receiving from. He is communicating with Gathwright's phone around the time on 6:22 and to Miss Andrews' phone by these records alone. Some images of the shooter on the top, farthest out away from the hotel. You can see the muzzle flash on that rifle that shooter is holding, but you can see the shooter is tall, thin, wearing a hoodie, more muzzle flashes. You can see a good outline in the headlights of the rifle, the outline of the rifle, including the sling attached to the rifle that is around his shoulder. But this is a tall, thin shooter with light skin. You can see him running into this tree because of his height. He is falling backwards, but is agile enough to catch himself and to continue firing. And again, his hand and his face are exposed, and you can see the light skin. there is no doubt in this evidence and the evidence that will be brought before you that that shooter was Mr. Gathright. This is a list of phone numbers. Mr. Gathright had got rid of his phone and was obtaining a new phone, had made a handwritten list that included several of his co-defendants' names and numbers. Moving on to Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, the evidence will demonstrate to you, was the Glock pistol shooter. You can see the Glock in his left hand. You will find in the evidence Mr. Rashad Murphy is left-handed, his dominant hand. You can see the extended magazine sticking up just to his lower back on the outside, covered head to toe. Now, on June 21st of 24, the Friday night at 10:24, 22:24, Mr. Murphy was shopping at a Walmart in Jacksonville. I think we can get some video here. He is holding a phone in his right hand that has a pink case. He's walking around. You can see the clothing he is wearing, the positioning of the belt and the type of belt. He is wearing boots, all of which look similar to the clothing being worn on the lower body of the Glock shooter, both going on the lower middle and coming back from the shooting scene. You can see in the video in the top middle photo there is some type of an issue, a cut or something in the left knee area of the pants. But anyways, that phone, when Mr. Murphy leaves Tampa in the Uber and goes back to Jacksonville, the same Uber with Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews, he doesn't stay in Jacksonville. That's not far enough away. He flees the state of Florida. He flees into the state of Georgia, up to Atlanta, and is stopped on the 26th by Gwinnett County PD, who pick up his vehicle, the same car that was being utilized by Mr. Chance as the tracking spotter car, the surveillance car, the Chevy Cruze, the car that belonged to his brother's baby mama. It is picked up on an LPR flock system that Gwinnett County contracts with them. Officers from Gwinnett County start searching the area, and they come upon a hotel where there is flock activity, LPR activity. They stay in that area in the early morning hours of the 26th, and they end up encountering Mr. Murphy returning to the hotel in that Cruze just around daybreak. He pulls into a spot. A Gwinnett County PD cruiser pulls up behind him. You will hear from that officer. You will see his body-worn camera as he exits the car, taking into account why this car is a suspect car. He draws his firearm and points it at Mr. Murphy, who is exiting the car, ordering him to show him his hands, and instead Mr. Murphy turns and runs and flees around the corner of the hotel. The uniformed officer gives pursuit on foot. You will see the video. He tases, he's yelling at Mr. Murphy, "Stop, police." He tases him, which knocks him to the ground, and they're able to take him into custody. Back in the car being utilized in navigation mode is that same phone. It is a phone that this defendant shares with Charmaine Steiger, and it is a phone that he left in Jacksonville. Mr. Murphy, you will not see any cell phone evidence for the ghost because he left his phone in Jacksonville. You can see Mr. Murphy's head poking up between the palm trees just before the attack. In the left, you see Mr. Murphy in custody in Gwinnett County. He is accompanied by Charmaine Steiger, his girlfriend, and the mother, I believe, of his children. They had booked into a hotel. He's wearing the same jeans that he's wearing in the driveway of the Gathright residence, Mr. Gathrit's residence, when they came back in the Uber, but that's really not, I don't believe, going to be in dispute that is him in the driveway. This is the close-up of the reservation being made with the Airbnb at Lagoon Hello, Rashad. Thank you for your reservation. It goes through confirming your reservation at Lagoon Oasis, staying from June 22nd to the 24th. And you can see that reservation is being made. If you can see just at the bottom there, 3:58 a.m., early morning. He's asked to forward his driver's license. These are found inside of that phone that is collected in Gwinnett County. You'll hear from Gwinnett County officers that they conducted a search of this phone. And you can see there those images of the DL, his DL or ID card being sent on June 22nd, about 8 o'clock in the morning, or 4 in the morning. Let me see, yes, 4 in the morning, because that's 8 o'clock UTC, so that would be 4 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. These images were located to the left in the phone, photographs taken of his leg and his feet showing footwear that appears to be the same type of footwear that the Glock shooter is wearing in the crime scene. On June 23rd of 2024 at around noon, Mr. Murphy posts this to his Instagram account under Ghost 187. Prosper and Junior, G-Day today, which you will hear from gang detectives, G-Day is Get Back Day today. Prosper, he puts down 187 babies. Prosper and Junior were individuals who were shot several years prior. They were members of a predecessor gang that became 1200, and that is an homage to them. The state would prove to you in its evidence just after the murder of Mr. Jones. Gerard Adams, going back to that murder that occurred in August of 18, Mr. Adams is a blood cousin of both of the Murphys, Davion and Rashad. So this wasn't just about gang affiliations. The evidence will show. As far as Mr. Murphy, Rashad Murphy, July 30th of 2024, because he was released by Gwinnett County. He was not arrested for murder up in Gwinnett County. There was not a warrant active at that time. July 30th, he was arrested in Jacksonville by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office detectives. And he was interviewed by 2 gang detectives, and you will hear their testimony. And they ask him about this murder, and they ask him about being in Tampa. He denies that he was in Tampa, and he denies it several times that he was in Tampa. He does admit that the silver Chevy Cruze that he was stopped in Georgia and arrested in, that he did obtain that from his brother's, the mother of his brother's children. He claims that he let someone borrow it that weekend of the murder to take it to Orlando. He admits that the phone that was in his possession in Georgia in the car, the Cruze, is a phone that he shares with Miss Steiger. But he challenges the officers to look at it because they won't confirm or be able to find any way to prove that it was in Tampa, which it wasn't because he didn't bring it with him. And he again stands on the story that he loaned out the silver Chevy Cruze, claiming that it was returned to him on the 23rd. As far as the Airbnb, he says he doesn't know anything about it. He would never let anybody put it in his name. When confronted with the text messages, he admits that he sent a picture of his ID, but he didn't know that it was being booked in Tampa. And again says he was never in Tampa, not that weekend. Doesn't know anything about the murder, about Tampa. And then the detectives confront him with the Uber video from Sean Gathrights' house, and then everything changes. First, he says he goes there all the time. He describes Sean as a light-skinned guy. Then he admits that he put the Airbnb in his name, but keeps denying he went to Tampa. Then the detectives step out of the interview room for a while. Meanwhile, Rashad Murphy there's a blanket in there to keep him warm, puts it over his head, lays his head on the table for a while. They come back in and he still tells him he wasn't in Tampa. Then he claims he was physically in Tampa that week, and he changes his story. He's seen the Uber video. He says early that morning of the 23rd, he and another guy who the detectives investigate and find is a deceased person traveled to Tampa in some old car. He wasn't even here for 2 hours. He does mention that he went in the back door of a residence. And then he says he hopped in the Uber, just hopped in and came straight back to Jacksonville in an Uber. I want to talk to you real quick about principles and go through this a little bit with you. If a defendant helps another person or persons commit or attempt to commit a crime, the defendant is a principal and must be treated as if he had done all the things the other persons did if the state proves beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended that the crime occur and that he did some act or said something, anything, that was intended to and did either incite his co-defendants, cause them, or encourage them, or assist them, or advise them to actually commit or attempt to commit a crime. So a principal is a person who intends for the murder to happen and either incites, causes, encourages by some word they say or some act that they do that the other person or persons commit or attempt to commit the crime. For first-degree murder, the state must prove that the defendant intended the killing of the victim, in this case, Charles Jones. It's not necessary for a principal to know every detail of how a first-degree murder will be committed, as long as that person intended that it be committed and did some act or said something that was intended to help or did help the murder to occur. But almost most importantly, a principal does not have to be present when the crime is committed. They don't have to be present when the crime is committed. If the defendant is found to be a principal, he is legally responsible and accountable for everything that his co-defendants did. And that leads us to Mr. Chance. Mr. Chance, along with his girlfriend, were in the car that was tracking, following, and surveilling Mr. Jones, and again, providing real-time information as to his whereabouts and location, even with the type of coordination that as the victim is exiting Teasers, the Impala comes right there within a minute and pulls into the parking lot from a completely opposite direction. This is his mapping. It maps him going all the way down from Gathrigh's house, all the way down to the Airbnb, and it's the same kind of mapping sequence that we saw with Mr. Gathright, but instead of going to Auburndale and Orlando, it tracks him back in that Uber going back north. We talked about Mr. Gathright, or Mr. Chance being at Gathright's house. He's hitting off of cell towers right there at the same time. Again, hitting off cell towers, so we know he's there. His phone is hitting off of the tower just south of the Airbnb at the same time on the 22nd that his girlfriend is seen at the front door. He also, you will see in this cell tower mapping, goes to the area of Teasers around 9:30 and is there for over an hour. You can see here the cell tower that his phone is utilizing by Teasers. When he's at Teasers at 2:30 in the morning with Miss Andrews, on the video, his phone is hitting off a tower. This cell phone tower is hitting near Hillsborough and 15th at the same time that the Chevy Cruze is being picked up on a license plate reader at 15th Street in Hillsborough. You will see a lot of overlapping in the state's evidence. And then the murder scene. When the Chevy Cruze is in the murder scene, Mr. Chance's cell phone is utilizing towers just to the south of the murder scene. When the Cruze is right there by Home to Suites, right before the murder, again, using that tower just to the south of the murder scene. And then he's back at the Airbnb, mapped there at around 3:08, which is around the time the Uber left. His phone is in contact with Miss Andrews' phone. His phone is in contact with Mr. Gathwright's phone. His phone is in contact with Davion Murphy's phone. And his phone is in contact on the 20th of June, a couple of days before they left, with Rashad Murphy, Charmaine Steiger's phone. And on June 23rd at 10:29 a.m., just hours after the death of Charles Jones, he posts this to his Instagram account, a photograph of Mr. Chance, and the person giving the bird there on the other side of the car is Antonio Tilley, who we know is a dead, or not a dead ops, but is a member of their gang that was murdered. Mr. Chance, see if I can do it, giving the 1-12-1200 gang sign. There will be many other images of him throwing gang signs. This was found in his house during a search warrant. Bully down. That is talking about the 6-block bully gang. Miss Andrews' phone maps pretty much consistently all the way through with Mr. Chance's phone. Wherever his phone is, her phone is mapping there too, including the murder scene. So I will move through that, and including McDonald's. This is a photograph taken by her phone when she and Mr. Chance were in the Truth 18 parking lot, and you can see in the background the second floor where the Truth 18 club is with the patrons outside. This is Miss Andrews' phone being mapped near Lodi off of 301, the city of Lodi, and there at the same time on an LPR is the Infiniti on the left SUV, the Uber that ends up at Mr. Gathwright's house, and of course her cell phone is there. Davion Murphy, who the state believes the evidence will show is the shooter with the orange ski mask, who was up behind the other two shooters. We have mapping of his phone from Jacksonville there. His phone is hitting off a tower just to the side of the McDonald's at the time he is there in the Chevy Cruze. His phone is hitting off of a tower just to the south of the Airbnb at 2:59, several hours after the murder as they were getting ready to leave. And then his phone is hitting off of a tower near Lake Butler, Florida, just northeast of Gainesville, at the same time that it is being picked up on an LPR right there at Main Street in Lake Butler, Florida. His phone is in contact with Isaiah Chance. Mr. Murphy is the biggest, heaviest one of these defendants, just like the shooter who takes the rearward position in this attack. That's Mr. Murphy. When he was arrested, you will see tattoos. You see many on his neck and chest. He has a 1200 tattoo on the back of his neck. He has the name of people from 1200 who have been murdered tattooed on his body. And in this video, you will clearly see in the evidence Mr. Davion Murphy taking full credit for his role in this shooting. That is just after his arrest, when he is left alone in an interview room. Just to show, because it was a video, I wanted you to see a couple of still shots of Mr. Davion Murphy in action. You can see the muzzle flash, you can see the orange or reddish ski mask, and you can see his position, shooting directly at the charger, shooting again at the charger, and a last time And there's Mr. Gathright on the bottom, following Mr. Edwards and the Charger and Mr. Jones. And then Mr. Murphy returning, being caught on the Tesla video. Now, this is a X-application chat room, for lack of a better term. You see several icons on that black screen. Those are all people that are in this chat room. The victim is present under the name ESPN 98. That is Julio Foolio, Charles Jones. That would be in the upper right of those icons. And just so you all understand what you're going to hear is that all of these people in this chat room can talk at the same time. You're going to hear a lot of overlapping. You're going to hear a lot of young ladies talking. But you will clearly hear Charles Jones talking, and you will clearly hear Gutta Man, you can see his name on there, Mr. Chance, talking. They are arguing, and you will clearly hear Mr. Chance say, "Hey, Foolio, your foot okay, cuz? Your foot okay?" This was after, this is June 6th. This is June 6th of 2024, 9 months after Mr. Charles Jones was shot in his lower leg in Jacksonville. A shooting where there were shell casings scientifically linked to Defendant Gathright, Mr. Chance's friend. And you will hear Mr. Jones reply to him if you listen.
Hey, daughter, if you would be they tell another niggas that you are that's a little tough. Hey, Julio, y'all would have. Yeah, my foot good, gang. I've been got bigger fish to fry. Your ass got bigger fish to fry, boy.
Why you acting like this feet good?
I'm curious because they just ain't about man. They don't put black alligators on you. They don't put gay alligators on you, all type of shit, man. This shit make me mad because I know you're trained. I know you.
Everybody pulling shit out. Niggas pulling shit out their ass, and niggas gonna be around niggas on most motherfuckers just saying all type of crazy ass shit. I'm not even tired of talking that shit, man.
And not no porn.
Like, I ain't mad about that shit, cause like the shit ain't true. So why the fuck like get mad about that shit? It's just like the little creep shit and like the other shit. Like, damn, better man creep now? That shit crazy. Alright, cool.
You talking about we call them niggas
Y'all talking in circles. Y'all talking in circles.
So you
how you gonna say that?
You said what?
I know you got more friends right there.
Cause Will, why you think when people fall out, people be lonely and shit, bro?
He got me in talking. He lonely.
No, he got lonely. No, hey, no, hold on real quick. Hey, Kara, what you mean he got me and you cause of them?
So when they are communicating, you can see the speaker icon below their name moving. So anyways, you may have to listen to it a couple of times in the evidence, but you can clearly hear Gutta Man, Defendant Chance, say, "Hey, Foolio," I think he says, "Hey, Foolio, your foot okay, cuz?" And he says, "Yeah, my foot okay. I got bigger fish to fry." And then they start going back and forth. And Mr. Jones was already making comments calling him Gutta Man or Gutta before that. But what's interesting, and this is recovered by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office gang detectives who were monitoring this in the early part of June of 2024, and they intercept this and record it. On Mr. Gathwright's phone, he has communication from Rashad Murphy's phone on that same date at approximately 11:18, shortly after that recording was obtained by JSO, by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office at 22:36, of Chance arguing with Mr. Jones on that X Spaces app. Gathright receives communication from Rashad Murphy. On the left, make sure that's going to be Rashad Murphy. Make sure bra in a good headspace before he go with his move. We got bigger shit to tend to. They ain't worth inward energy. Below that, you see the response from Mr. Gathright. He likes it first, and then he says, I ain't heard from bro, talking about Mr. Chance, today, but I'm going to check in with him. On the right-hand side, Mr. Rashad Murphy then sends this message. This is going around a little after 3 a.m. He's probably not going to pick up. He on IG, Instagram, letting death's inwards get him out of character. He turned up on that MFRN. And Mr. Gathright replies, damn, all right, let me see what's up. So we got bigger shit to tend to. This evidence alone demonstrates to you, number one, that all of these defendants know each other, they're coordinating with each other, and that this conspiracy is in existence as early as June 6, over 2 weeks before the murder of Charles Jones. Rashad Murphy in this evidence is trying to stop his co-defendant Chance, his co-conspirator, from letting the cat out of the bag. The evidence in this case will show you all. In this conspiracy and this murder, there was no cold feet. Nobody had cold feet. There was no hesitation. There was absolutely zero, nada, mercy shown to Charles Jones or his friends. What the evidence will show you in this trial is a cold-blooded, premeditated execution. A precise, a coordinated attack with nothing left to chance and no detail spared. The state's evidence in this case is going to reach back to the early morning darkness of June 23rd, 2024, and we are going to drag that conspiracy out of that darkness and into the bright lights of this courtroom for you, all of you, and everyone to see its wicked and vile nature, to see the malice, and to see the premeditation. For Charles Jones, there were no more birthdays. All that was left was a funeral. The state's evidence will prove to each and every one of you, beyond any doubt, we had a lot of discussions about proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We're going to prove this case to you beyond any doubt. There's not going to be any doubt. The evidence in this case will convince each of you. You will know, and it'll be crystal clear to you, that all four of these defendants conspired and murdered Charles Jones.
All right, very good. Members of the jury, it's 1:45, so we're going to take our lunch break. We're going to have an hour for lunch. So just remember my previous admonition. You're not to talk to anybody about this case. You're not to read, watch, listen to any news or social media posts about this case. And we will reconvene at 1:45. Okay? See you then.
All rise.
All right. We're going to do a recap, and while we do, we're going to watch the defendants taken out of the room. I don't think there's any more audio. So they came out of the break. The judge says, whoever makes the objection, please approach. So she doesn't want 20 lawyers coming up to the bench. So whoever makes the objection goes up, and that's pretty standard. So the jury comes back in, and Mr. Harmon continues. So Sean is light-skinned. He's tall. He's able to run into that tree and not fall down while he's...
How the individuals are named in the indictment. What's your preference? You want to talk about it?
We can talk about it. Your Honor.
Okay, yeah, just let me know before we go into openings what the lineup's going to be, okay? All right.
Could I have just a general estimation, because I just have witnesses coming in, and I just want to push them back.
I understand, but no one asked for a time limit. I didn't give the state a time limit. I'm not going to give the defendants a time limit.
Oh, I'm not asking for a time limit. I'm just wondering if they know how long, just so I can update witnesses.
You can ask them.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Court's in recess.
So I can...
All right. So let's continue on. We'll watch them as they walk out. All right. So then Rashad is left-handed while he has his firearm in his hand. They show him shopping at a Walmart in Jacksonville. Pants and shoes match his clothing the night of. But he actually leaves Florida. He goes to Atlanta, but he gets picked up. Gets picked up by law enforcement there in Gwinnett County. So June 26th, he returns to the hotel, and he runs and he gets tased. We showed that in our pretrial prep. We showed him having that happen to him. Then they bring in Charmaine Steiger, who is Rashad's girlfriend, and he shares a phone with her, and there's some communication there. There's a reservation confirmation email that says, "Hello, Rashad. Thank you for your reservation." And then he posts on June 23rd, he posts Prosper and Junior G-Day today, 187 babies. So Prosper and Junior were taken out a few years before. I think, hold on a sec. Those were their cousins. Hold on a sec. I don't know if I have that. Hold on. So Prosper is Prosper Johnson. Prosper is Prosper Johnson. And then Junior, let's see if I have Junior's name handy. All right, I don't have Junior's. Hold on a sec. Super Bowl, come on. Don't fight me. Don't fight me now, please. All right, so that's Sean being taken out. All right, I don't have Junior's name here. I'm sure you guys know, and I can look it up quickly enough, but I'm not going to take any more time. So there's Isaiah being let out. All right, so we'll continue on. So they are, I'm sorry, let's see. No, they were not related. I'm sorry, I thought they were related. My bad. So it's Gerard Adams, or Spaz. He is blood cousins to the Murphys. Then July 30th, he's back in Jacksonville. He was let go in Atlanta. He denies being in Tampa throughout all of his interviews with law enforcement. He says someone borrowed the Chevy Cruze. He says his phone wasn't in Tampa because he didn't bring it with him. The Cruze was returned to him, right? He let somebody borrow it, and then he says, it was returned to him. And he didn't know about the Airbnb. He wasn't in Tampa, but then law enforcement show him the Uber video of him at Sean's house. There goes Davion. He's the biggest one, largest one. He is definitely the largest one out of everybody. So then once law enforcement show Rashad at Sean's house, he changes his story. So then he admits he put the Airbnb in his name, but he says he wasn't there. Then he says he was in Tampa. He says he was with some other guy. Law enforcement checked into that. That guy's deceased. He said they traveled to Tampa for a few hours, but then he hopped in an Uber and came back home. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. Then we get into the principles, right? We've talked about this before, the principle theory. All right, there goes Rashad. Rashad's being let out. Then we talk about this principle theory, right? So if the defendant helped another person to commit a crime, they must be treated as if they had done all the things the other person did. So that's incite, cause, encourage, assist, or advise. Some of the lawyers eating. I think that's pretty much it for... All right, we'll put up our thumbnail. Actually, I'll go back here. So the principal doesn't have to be present when the crime is committed. So Isaiah Chance, along with his girlfriend, Alicia Andrews, tracked Charles Jones that night. Cell phone mapping shows Isaiah going from Jacksonville to Tampa, back to Jacksonville, same time as all the others. Then he goes to Teasers at 9:30, same as I think Sean gets there as well at 9:30. We'll continue on. A Bully Down picture, so picture Bully Down, which is a gang, is found at his house. Alicia's phone matches Isaiah's phone, like exactly wherever she is, he is, and just matches up. She even took a photo while they were at Truth 18 in the parking lot. Davion's, his phone maps the same time and places as the others. He says he's the biggest and heaviest of the defendants, as shown in the shooting video. Then law enforcement pull him in, and he's doing, he's making, gestures as if he's, manipulating a firearm. Then they talk about this live chat room in X, and which is interesting. So Julio is ESPN 98, and Gutter Man is Isaiah. Hey Julio, your foot okay, cuz? And this was June 6th. So just a few, 2 weeks, 14 days? Yeah, about 14 days before this happens. And Julio's like, yeah, I'm okay. I got bigger fish to fry. And then that same day, Sean communicates with Rashad, and Rashad's like saying, hey, make sure, he's in a good headspace, meaning Isaiah. And, Rashad basically is telling Isaiah, stop letting the cat out of the bag, He finally ends with, nobody had cold feet. There was no hesitation. There will be no doubt that all four conspired and took out Charles Jones. All right, I want to go through some of our timeline. We made this great timeline, so I want to be able to show it. So the state is going to bring in, and they talked about this, and we talked about this in our deep dive. The state's going to bring in six incidences that happen. Aaron and I, we wanted to go back. We wanted to go back further than that. So the state is going to bring in, their timeline is going to start 2019 with Adrian Gaynor, or Bibby, when he got taken out. We're backing it up a little bit more. So there was this Kodak Black concert, even before Aiden McClendon there was shot, that apparently two gangs were there, and somebody was offered a handshake and it was slapped away or wasn't accepted, and then it erupted into this, unfortunately, I think people were, shooting at each other, right? There was even a witness that says it erupted into, let me read that. So it was in 2015. The modern rivalry sparked when a turned-down handshake at a Kodak Black show led to a fistfight and subsequent tit-for-tat shootings between the precursors of KTA, which would be PCE, and ATK, or 187 out west. According to news reports, what began as a tense but civil handshake between two rival gangs devolved when one member refused to shake hands. A bigger, stronger rival slapped him. That was disrespectful, and everyone was fighting like a rumble, an eyewitness says. Being kicked out instead of fighting, we were shooting. So again, we covered all of that. If you want to go back and check out, I'll link, I'll post in our description links that you guys can go check out. So it kind of happened there. So then we go to, and then poor Aiden there, January 29th of 2016. So he's 22 months old. He's shot. Obviously wasn't meant to. They were thought somebody else was in the car. So Aiden is actually cousins with Reginald and Noah Williams, who Reginald is Wappa with the Choppa, and Noah is Spinabenz. And they are both associated with ATK, or Ace's Top Killers. The shooters are, Kwame Richardson and Henry Lee Hayes. They're from PCE, which is Problem Child Entertainment. Then we go to 2017. Here's another big moment. We've got Zion Brown, May 17th, 2017. He's 18 years old. He's the cousin of Charles Jones, Julio Foolio, and they're part of KTA, or Kill Them All, or 6 Block. That's the Hilltop Apartments. That's where Julio grew up. So then that shooter was DeAndre Thomas, or Trey Shorty, who was associated with ATK. Then we go to 2018. Now I'm calling it the Wasabi Restaurant Ambush. This happened June 15th of 2018. This is Kenyatta Bullard, who is also known as Young and Ace, and we saw him and Wappa with the Choppa, Fast Money Goon, Spin a Benz. We saw them in that Who I Smoke video. So in Quan Quan, who is Trayvon Bullard, that's Youngin's younger brother. They were all in a car with Royale Smith, also known as 23, and then also Kobe or 4. They were all in this car. They were celebrating 23's birthday. They leave, they pull up to a stoplight, and somebody comes by and shoots. And this is where When I See You, Julio's response to When I Smoke was about this. 4 shot, 3 dead on your birthday. So that's what that relates to. Then we have Corbin Johnson. He goes missing July 11th of 2018. He was only 18 years old. His remains were found literally the year later, July 11th, 2019. He's associated with ATK, and his killer is unknown. So that's where we go back to our timeline. Then law enforcement, the state is going to bring in Adrian Gaynor or Bibby. And you have Bibby, Tiki, and Lil 9. Now that we saw the state's opening, we saw Who I Smoke, when they do Bibby, Tiki, and Lil 9, they are referring to these 3. So Adrian Gaynor was only 16 years old. He's a close friend of Charles Jones, or Julio Foolio. He was actually shot in the Hilltop Apartments. And the shooter was Hakeem Robinson, also known as Queso. He's associated with 1200 or ATK. Then we have Tiki Williams, or Tiki, May 7th, 2019. He's 19 years old. He's a close friend of Julio Foolio. His shooter is unknown. Then we have from 2019, Gerard Adams, or Spaz, and we heard his name. He was 19 years old. He was shot and taken out at a high school football game. And we heard about this in Alicia Andrews' testimony during her trial, and we watched her testimony. If you want to go check that out, we watched that. Now, Robert Howard, who is Kenny Capps, he pled guilty to this, and he's part of 6 Block or KTA, but he actually did a proffer, which just basically means I'm telling the truth, that it was actually Adrian Gaynor or Bibby that actually was the shooter, right? So I didn't know that. That was kind of news to me. So then we go to Dimitri Mixon, who is also known as Lil 9, June 9th of 2020. He's 18 years old. He's a close friend of Charles Jones. He and his shooter is unknown. So you've got Bibby, Tiki, and Lil 9, all very, very close friends of Julio Foolio. And you've got the Ops, or Young and Ace, and ATK, and those guys coming out with a song, Who I Smoke, just completely disrespecting those kids. Then continuing forward, the state's going to bring in Jaquan Pickens, or Jake Jit. He is 19 years old. He is shot and taken out August 16th, 2023. Now, he's driving on I-95, and he is shot, and he runs into a trailer, a tractor trailer, a semi. Could not find any news on that, unfortunately. Then we have August 17th, so the next day, we have Jacoby Beals, or Lil Kobe. He's 19 years old. He's the cousin of Darius and Maliki Beals. They're associated with 1200. This is in retaliation for the Jake Jit shooting. That shooter remained unknown. Then we go to Antonio Tilley. We heard about this in the state's opening, October 6th of 2023. He's 19 years old. Now, there's rumor, or what the law enforcement believe, that this was a $20,000 contract retaliation for dissing Adrian McKenzie, or BGYBZ. Now, he took an Uber to a house, and he was ambushed, and he and that Uber driver, unfortunately, were both taken out. The shooter was Jaquan Mills. Then finally, we have Charles Jones, literally like 5 hours later. So it was early. It was October 6th through October 7th. So it was the early morning hours. Charles was 25 at this point in time. He was leaving his residence, and he was shot in the foot. He survived, and this is where we heard the state saying that casings from that incident were found that matched the same casings that Sean Gathright had at his house and then they also matched casings that were found at the Tampa Bay shooting. So we have that. I also want to go through these cars. Let's go through these cars. We made this graphic as well. So vehicle number 1 is the 2020 black Dodge Charger. This was registered to Charles Jones's mother, Sandricus Mays. The victims in this car were Charles Jones, Julio Foolio, Xavier Edwards, and Gino Norris. Xavier was the driver. He is shot in the upper right arm very badly. Gino Norris is also shot, and they're both bleeding very badly. And of course, Charles Jones, does not make it, and Mr. Harmon described he was shot in the basically in the front, goes through his lungs and his heart, and then in the back a couple times. Car number 2, or vehicle number 2, is a 2020 black Nissan Altima. This is registered to Tifa McCrae. And the victim in this is Camilla Bentley. She is nicked in the upper right arm. She survives. And then finally, vehicle number 3 is a 2020 gray Hyundai Sonata. This is registered to Armani Turner, who is the girlfriend of Charles Jones. Occupants are Armani Turner, Edgehoa Randolph, and Robert Howard. They were not struck by any gunfire, but they sustained damage when they were trying to flee, and they ran into vehicle 3 and vehicle 2. So vehicle 2 and 3 ran into each other. So, all right, you guys, that pretty much wraps it up for us. Appreciate you, joining us and spending time with us and watching this. This was the state's opening statements. We will make another video of defense openings, and then we'll continue on with day 2. So this was all from day 1. So again, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. As always, I will leave you with a cat if I can. I've got Super Ball here. Sweet little Super Ball hanging out with me. So I just want to thank you guys. This is a video and not a live. I still want to thank our mods, and I want to thank Aaron. And of course, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully we will be live soon, but until then, we will be doing these videos of the trial. All right, take care, and we'll see you later. Super Ball says goodbye.